Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks podcast, brought to you by TSWS Gaming.
Come and talk to me, Lennard Ray. That's your name. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby. Listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you. If you could play it, won't you take a chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Look, see we vibing and you know it's true. Baby, what it do? Do for me and I'ma do for you. No doubt about it. Boosie, I'm a Midwest king, looking for myself a queen. Ready to chase a dream with a dope self-esteem. You find it in all I know, and that's for real. You get to shaking that ass on the floor, and I see what's real. No disrespect, I just tell it like it is. Do you ever want some kids? What your ultimate goals? Maybe I can help with those. The mo was broke when he made you a blessing. You looking like a whole buffet, and I need some seconds. You say you had promiscuous ways, that was back in the day. I'll be alive, I say I did it. That shit was a phase. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place, this nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal. I can see it in her eyes, this one right here for real. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby, listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you, if you could play it. Won't you take the chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk, yeah. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Lady, you so far ahead of these others, just like a ship on the horizon. Picking up on your vibe, signal stronger than Verizon. All the thoughts that I've been contemplating, ain't no time for faking or debating. You the one, ain't no mistaking. Look, I see you swag different. Always carry yourself like you ready, you know the mission. I had to know you, I'm tempted. I can see why you timid. Hold up now, baby, listen. Just take that dance with me, I can show you that there's a difference. I'm locked in. I throw away my play ways because you pop in. A shooter always shoot a shot. With you by my side, I guarantee we'll reach the top. I put that on God and them, I give you all that I got. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place, this nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal. I can see it in her eyes, this one right here for real. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby, listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you, if you could play it. Won't you take a chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk, yeah. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me.
Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks.
Do your thing, man. Do your thing. Don't worry about it. But anyways, welcome everybody to another fantastic episode of Behind Them Sticks with your boy Ham Solo 05 Gaming here with you. And I have an awesome guest today, Mr. David Faulkner is here. He's actually been on other shows with me on this channel, but he's actually never been behind them sticks before. So I decided to invite him here just so I can get to know him a little bit better, see who has been on my channel. I'm doing some like backwards betting, I guess. But it ain't even really betting because we're just going to be kicking it, talking some games, having a good time and hanging out with you guys. So thanks to you guys that are watching now, and thanks to those that are going to be watching in the near future. But without further ado, let me get to my guest. Please, Mr. David, let everybody know where they can find you, where they could reach you, play games with you possibly, if you're into sharing that type of information, whatever. Just let them know what you do or whatever. Shout yourself out, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. So you can find me on gaming platforms, PlayStation, PSN. My gamer tag is Uncle_Davey. There's a bit of a funny story behind that one, if you ever wanted to know. I also kick around on Steam occasionally, do some PC gaming there, and obviously on the Nintendo Switch. Not so much online with that one because you get online with a lot of the Nintendo fans and usually get your ass handed to you pretty quickly when you're playing Smash Brothers or something like that. So
Fair enough.
they're the gaming ones. Social media on Twitter's the one I'm most active on. So at Forky87, I think you've got it in the description
Yes, I do.
for the
Absolutely.
show. So obviously I'm on YouTube as well, poking around there, and LinkedIn. That's actually becoming quite a size, even though it's a professional workplace sort of social media thing. LinkedIn gets kicked around a fair bit. Got a Facebook and an Instagram, but I'm not really active on that. They're just, Elon can go eat one, as well as Mark and all the rest of them. And yeah, I don't have a TikTok or a Snapchat or anything like that. So yeah, if you want to get in touch, Twitter's probably the best place to do it. And yeah, happy to chat. Always happy to chat.
Nice. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So please give us a little bit of background on like your first time gaming, I guess. Like the best time that you can really reach back and remember. Was it something that was in the household already? Or was it something that you played somewhere else?
So my first experience into video games was one day a Sega Mega Drive 2 just showed up at the house.
Let's go.
I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it got there, but it just showed up and it was plugged into the TV. And one of my older brothers said, "Hey, come and have a go at this." And the first game I ever played was Sonic 2. And I just fell in love with it. I loved the colors, the music, just the speed, the fun of it. And that's always stuck with me as my first most memorable foray into gaming. Just spending hours and hours just playing Sonic 2. I loved it. It was brilliant. Had a couple of other games on there. They weren't anything noteworthy, I suppose. They're just sort of cheaper, like motorcycle racing GP game and a soccer game and a couple of other things. But yeah, I played that Sonic game until the cartridge melted. That's how much I played it. Like those things were pretty indestructible. But yeah, so that was the first foray into it. And then in 1997, one of my really close mates got a PlayStation for his birthday, and he was a couple of months before me. And he got that, and he had Final Fantasy VII and Disney Hercules and a couple of other games, which I think he had Crash Bandicoot as well or something like that. And at one stage, and just playing those and watching him play those was just magic. 3D gaming, and I got one a couple of months later, and the rest is history.
But let's rewind it back. So I want to know, like, not only like what got you into it, because you were talking about Sega, and then you quick jumped the PlayStation. you were quick to jump the PlayStation real quick, and I'm just like, whoa, slow down, bro, slow down. We haven't got there yet. So what I want to know is, during that Sega Mega Drive time period, was there anything else that piqued your interest that was pretty dope during that time period? Because games were flying around and consoles was like, because I feel like most of the time I do this podcast, I feel like we overlook the hell out of what was really actually available during those times. Because it wasn't like one or two or even three things. It was like 7 or 8 different consoles trying to make something happen. And what up, Uso Vinny? I see you in the chat. What up, Mr. Joanna Dark and Fastback OG? It was like a ton of different places to get content of games. It wasn't so kind of condensed down to where it is currently. So I want to know, like, were your eyes poking around at anything else? Because sure, PlayStation was like a headliner with Sony, but let's not forget about like the Atari Jaguar. Let's not like forget about the 3DO and all the different types of Segas that were be attached to each other, or even the Saturn by that memory. But Like,
Mm.
what poked out at you, or were you too young to really care about that?
Oh, so I suppose where I grew up was sort of in rural Queensland, Australia. So we didn't get a huge amount of option all the time. So occasionally we'd go to capital city being Brisbane. We might go there 2 or 3 times a year. And this was back in 93, 94. Like this is around that time where everybody was having a crack at something different. I was aware of the Super Nintendo, and I was aware of the Atari. I can't remember which Atari one it was. I think it was the 2600 or something around that time. There were a couple of different consoles that were there, but this was around the height of when Mega Drive, like Sega, was really going after Nintendo. The whole Sega does what Nintendo don't, and all that sort of
Right.
stuff. Um, so that was sort of the marketing here in Australia at the time was, if this is the benchmark, then that's the one you spend your money on, sort of thing. But yeah, I remember trying to find a game for the Mega Drive too, and there were 3 or 4 different Sega cartridge games. Like I couldn't figure out which one was for which. So you'd end up having, does this work on that console, and which version of which console within Sega ecosystem is it, and a few others. But yeah, not so much aware of the broader piece. I was obviously aware of the Super Nintendo or the SNES, and my exposure to that was actually, I sort of played the first Zelda games and played Star Fox and played a few of those other ones, and I found them quite intriguing, but I didn't really have the freedom or the ability to sort of choose one or the other. And as I said, the Sega Mega Drive just showed up at home, so that was the one that we played with what we were given, because it was either that or grab a stick and go out and play in the dirt sort of thing. So, but I had 3 or 4 years just with a Mega Drive 2 and about half a dozen games. I still got it sitting in a box in the shed out the back
Same
in the
one.
house here. Same one, exactly the same one. I've managed to hold on to it the whole time. So
That's
um,
insane.
it's amazing. Yeah, I don't know, what was it, 2023, and I got it in '94. So it's nearly 30 years old. It still works.
That's
I
amazing.
don't have a TV. I don't have a TV I can plug it into at the moment because it's the old UHF
Yeah.
coax cable plug-in, and I don't have an old TV tube TV to plug it into at the moment, and they're hard to find. But yeah, it was difficult to try and get a broader view. Again, we're talking in early mid-90s, no internet. You only got what was in the paper or what was on the TV, or you're really subjected to limited marketing as well. So it
So
was.
I'm going to stop you right there because I have an extra question kind of lead from here, and this is going to jump us a little further than I was anticipating. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question more or less is like, when did you finally realize that, hey, I'm starting to recognize what's really good to me, and what was that? Like what as you were saying, like during the Genesis times and whatnot, you didn't have that opinion to hold like really any water too.
Yeah.
So when did you first realize, like what generation was that? Was that like the PS2? Was it the PS3? Like what was it?
Yeah.
Or was it a different console for all I know? Was it a Nintendo Wii? I don't know.
You're never going to let me live that one down, are you? So I suppose it's a bit of a checkered point between going from the Sega through to the PlayStation. We also I had an original Game Boy, and then we had a Game Boy Color and all that sort of stuff. So I've never really been sort of stuck to one platform. I've branched out in different areas. What got me though, as I said, I loved Sonic, and Sonic was great. And we did have arcades where you can go into like nickel arcades, whatever you call them over in America, put 20 cents in and play Street Fighter 2 for 5 minutes, or Tekken, or whatever it was. And we had Sonic in a couple of them as well. But I love the color and the vividness and the music and stuff of Sonic. And just it sort of energized me. And I love playing it. And I just play it over and over and over again, because no two runs were ever the same for a game that is effectively the same thing every time you play it, because you can't save it.
Okay.
And we got on to, my sister and I got given a Game Boy each, and she got Pokemon Blue, and I got Pokemon Red, and that was it. Here's the Game Boy, here's the Pokemon game, have fun, because it was a big thing on TV over here at the time. And playing that game, it clicked with me that I like RPGs. There's a storyline. Yes, it's a pretty basic storyline, but there's a storyline. There's an objective. There's this collection and upskilling and up-leveling and all that, and that clicked with me. And then having played a couple of Mario games on the Game Boy as well, it's like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. There's puzzle solving and that. But it was when I got I got all through that and sort of, yeah, this is interesting. I could sort of take it or leave it. I wasn't really hardcore into it. But when I got onto the PlayStation, and one of the first games I played on there was Final Fantasy VII, and that just took the RPG thing to another level. And it was like, okay, now I'm vestedly interested in how games can be a bigger form or a more visual form of novels, because I love reading books. I'm massive. I'll read novels all the time, and if they can, and I've got a very vivid imagination as well. As a younger child, I had a really vivid imagination, but it was being able to see and interact with the vividness of the stories, I suppose. That's what really got me hooked. And then, there's been games all throughout history ever since. That's like Metal Gear Solid, the first one. That was a mind-blowing experience for me. It was just, they can really tell a story that great, because that was the first time I'd ever been exposed to like a seriously mature level story. And there's been, some of the PS2 games are brilliant. There's been some Xbox games as well that, like the original Halo, that thing was groundbreaking. And I remember playing hours, like tens and tens of hours over at mates' places, just running around shooting the shit out of each other and shooting the shit out of everything we could bloody aim at, and just
Right.
having an absolute blast doing it. So it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but it's not sort of one point. It's been a bit of a slow burn until I realised, actually, I really do like this stuff. And it's just stuck from there.
Okay. So from there, I'm kind of curious, like, not only did you get into games like pretty deep at that time, you had your preferences, which was more based. If I'm reading your answer properly, you're pretty much saying, yo, my allegiance wasn't so much to a console as much as it was to a game or a genre.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm a JRPG fanatic. I love them. I like RPGs. I like turn-based. I know everyone goes, "Oh, turn-based is so on." I'm like, I love turn-based games because there's strategy there, and it just sort of, I don't even. The nice way of saying it is anyone can run around and smash the square button or smash the A button and just keep belting away at something, right? In a turn-based strategy game, doesn't matter what it's like, whether it's like a Final Fantasy game or Pokemon game, whatever it is, you've got to be thinking ahead all the time, like playing chess, so to speak. And I find the challenge really rewarding. I do like action games. Don't get me wrong. I love action games, but yeah, I'll go where the really good and intriguing games are. I've played on Nintendos, I've played on PlayStations, played games on Xbox, PC. I don't care. Just wherever they're putting the good games is where I'll go.
Okay, and is that it? Did that feeling currently carry with you today?
It does. It does. I've said it a few times, and I get reactions where they, oh, geez, that's a very morbid outlook. But I've got a finite amount of time available to me to play games, and it's not just because of how busy I am with work and family and commitments and all the rest of it. But there's more games coming out than I'll ever get a chance, than anyone's ever going to get a chance to play in their lifetime.
That's a fact.
And I've got to be very, very selective about what I'm investing my leisure time in, because obviously it's not just gaming. There's books, music, heaps of other things outside of
It's life.
work that
It's just life in general.
Yeah, there's life. Yeah. So I might get 4 or 5 hours a week max to myself to do some kind of leisure activity. And if I'm reading a book for a couple of hours, well, that's pretty much the week done. So I've got to be very specific with what I play. And I tend to shy away from the really big open world games. for that reason, unless they're like very compelling. But I'm also like very selective with not wasting time on things that I'm not enjoying. So I've had a lot of games that I've started and spent maybe an hour or two on, and I just go, oh, it's a good game, but it's not really grabbing me. There's other things that I'm more interested in playing. I do try to finish every game that I start, but I just don't have the time. But yeah, it's just time limitations, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I understand that with, having a kid, having a family, having a job that keeps you on your toes constantly is probably really, I feel, I feel like a lot of adulting is for sure like what your occupation is pretty much doing to you is gonna pretty much mean the way that you're gonna be able to live your life. Not even the cash portion of it, more just the time of it.
Yeah.
How it takes away certain things, makes some things available that wouldn't be available, but then completely closes or almost closes the door on other things that you wish you could do, but it's just not worth it with the lifestyle that you're trying to provide at the current moment. But with that being said, since you have such a finite amount of time, where in what direction have you been putting games lately? Like list off a few different games that you've seen as of recent that was like spectacular, or you knew you had to put some time or money into.
Yeah. So this is going to sound a little bit hypocritical now, but I've been playing Horizon Forbidden West for a while.
My goodness, it does sound hypocritical.
Apparently, I've sunk 120 hours into that game now. I don't know how.
Oh my god, that's a lot of time too. What's happening here?
I don't know. It feels like I haven't. But it's effectively been the only thing I've been playing for the last 4 or 5 months for solo time. But then I've been spending a lot of time helping my son with. He loves Pokemon and he loves dinosaurs, so we've played a lot of Jurassic World Evolution and Pokemon games and some other bits and pieces with him. So, and he's getting into Dragon Ball Z and some of that anime stuff now too.
Nice.
So I'm enjoying passing that on and spending time. So we can do something as a father-son unit there. Luckily, he's into the stuff I like playing. He's also spends a lot of time playing like Animal Revolt Battle Simulator and Teardown and all this other stuff that Minecraft that I'm just not really interested in. But hey, that's his thing. If he's doing that and the wife's doing something else, I get a little bit of time to do something for myself. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many games coming out that just look really interesting. It's tough to put a point on, what's next. I spent last year just rushing through the Yakuza series, mainly because I enjoyed the story. I hardly did any of the additional stuff that's in the game. I just mainlined them because I was just interested in the story. But, I'm really looking forward to see what they do with the next Final Fantasy game.
Are you excited for this one coming this summer?
I have. Yeah, I've got some reservations.
You say it? Yeah, I was gonna say you said a little funny right there. You said with a like a disgust, but like I know I'm gonna have to check it out anyways.
I've got confidence that the guys that are creating it are going to do a good job. It just seems like it's another Final Fantasy game that's not here. When they did the remake for Final Fantasy VII, they took an excellent game and brought it forward 20 years and made it good. Like, made it a good effort of a remake. This is a brand new game, brand new storyline, brand new concept. Final Fantasy 15, I haven't played it all the way through. Played the demo for about an hour and it didn't really grab me. I'm just a bit concerned that they're going to play it safe. But then, as I said, I'm turn-based. Final Fantasy games should be turn-based, and I believe it's going to be action. I don't know if it's really going to grab me as much as I'd like it to. But I'm still keen to see how it goes. Street Fighter 6. I've never really been big in fighting games, but that thing looks amazing. It looks like it's going to pop pretty well.
What about it looks amazing to you? Because I like every time a Street Fighter game comes out, I'm just like, okay.
I think it's the color palette. I know it sounds weird, but you look at the Tekken 8 stuff and it's all dark and gloomy and lightning and everything. But Street Fighter's got some vibrant colors popping out of the screen, and they're actually trying to make it. I don't know what the right terminology for it is, but they're trying to make it feel like it's explosive. Like all the moves are high intensity, explosive movements. DNF Duel was another one that they tried to do with a different art style, and it just, for that one, for everyone loving it, it just fell really flat for me. It just felt like an anime fighting game. Like, there wasn't anything special about it for me. But I am very intrigued to see. There's a couple of games coming out in the indie scene. So Broken Roads is an indie game. It's being compared to Disco Elysium. It's made by some Aussie developers, and it's coming out at the back end of this year. But post-apocalyptic isometric RPG about outback Australia and some bits and pieces around that. It looks quite intriguing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a few things poking around, but I mean
does Spider-Man make you excited at all? Like, just hearing that?
I've never really been a big Spider-Man fan.
Wow, didn't expect that.
I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm really big on Batman and those sort of anti-hero type.
So Suicide Squad, maybe.
I saw the thing this morning.
Did you see? I was going to say, did you see the thing today?
Yeah, I did watch it. I saw the direction that they're trying to go.
Okay.
I don't know. It's online multiplayer. I'm not a big fan of that online co-op stuff. Probably not for me, but the same thing with the what was the other Arkham Knights or whatever it was that came out.
Yeah. Gotham Knights.
Yeah, Gotham Knights is what again, not really my thing. Doesn't really appeal to me, but I mean Wolverine though, I can't wait to get my hands on that one. But yeah, Spider-Man's probably, I don't know, probably a bit too. It's great. It's I'm intrigued to see it, but it just doesn't wind me up like it does for a lot of other people.
Okay.
I think it's because it's just a little too friendly. I like the darker, grittier.
I could see that. That's why and no disrespect to anybody out watching this or watching this later or whatnot, but that's why I'm more into DC than I am Marvel. Because DC, although they don't always come out with the best movies, it just seems a little bit more realistic in some of the ways that they talk to each other, the ways that, like, the character progression. Like, when I look at Marvel, I'm expecting, like, whether they're expecting me to take them serious or not, because they do have more serious Marvel movies, but that's where I get confused, because I go into it thinking we're expecting some comedy or whatnot, and then when there's no comedy, I'm like, this is kind of weird. But then when I go to watch a movie like Deadpool, which I thought Deadpool was really fun to watch, in the back of my mind, I'm still like not taking it too serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Compared to like Batman, when I'm watching Batman, like I could cry. Like I could cry, or my wife could, more or less my wife, not so much me. I mean, it takes quite a bit, and I will tell you, episode, and there is an episode of The Last of Us I watched recently that did actually make me cry, and I was surprised because I beat the game, and I was super sad, but the TV show hit harder just because there's real people in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to spoil it for anybody at all. But what I'm more or less saying is like, there's certain things with Marvel I enjoy the combat and the action part of it, but some of the dialogue I just can't. Yeah. I just don't get it.
It's a bit too. Oh, look, I like games, action, adventure. You know, as I said, I still think the first Metal Gear Solid is one of the best games ever made. But I like games where, and this is giving it away, you get up close and it's gritty and it's tough and you're forced to do, you know, whatever it is at close range. I really don't like sitting back. I don't like sitting back sniping in these sort of games. I even with Horizon Forbidden West, I'd rather run up behind them, jam a knife through them. You know, and that's why with Spider-Man, it's sort of your combat it's hands on, but it's always sort of a defensive thing. You're trying to tie them up or string them up or whatever it is. What I'm looking forward to with Wolverine, if they get this right, looks like they will, is you just get right up close and personal with someone, jam, you know.
David says he likes disrespecting people. like he said, he doesn't want to feel like he's like countering you. He wants to throw the first blow, and be disrespectful, like off the
Batman. Oh, look, Batman Arkham Knight, Batman Arkham City was gritty, right? When you got to and some of the combat in that was just like, you know, you get the X-ray vision of stomping someone, seeing a spine shatter and stuff like that. And you're up close and personal with that. That's the sort of I get it. I like those kind of games where you're really into it.
That was the 360 PS3 era, though. It was just a bunch of gritty ass games. Like you go from Crackdown, Assassin's Creed back then was pretty gritty. Was it Star Wars Unleashed with Star Killer? That dude was you want to talk about gritty. That dude was an absolute savage in that. What's another one of them? Prototype was vicious.
Yeah.
So I mean, I 100% hear what you're talking about. All those games that we just got done talking about, disrespectful to your opponents. You were not dodging, you were attacking, and with brute force. You were, I mean, even sports games during that time, NFL Street, freaking the Blitz, the League. You tackle somebody, bring them to the ground, and it shows their neck go like crack to the side. Like that shit was wild.
You know, you even had fighting games where you had button inputs where you could, talk back and give a bit back verbally to your opponents and stuff like. But they just play it. They play it too safe these days because of some individual who wants to whinge. But yeah, they're the sort of action games that I really, really like. Just I'm good. The best example, an example I can give is with Yakuza 6. And apologies if this gives it away too much, but in that game, that is the only game in the entire Yakuza series from 0 through 6 and all the rest of it, mainline Kazuma Kiryu games, where he knows how good he is and he can back it up. And you're not trying to prove yourself to someone. That's the only game in that series where he can just go out and belt the crap out of anyone from the first point of that game, and he doesn't care. And he tells people, like, one fight, there's someone starts going, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm everything else, and you're old and I'm going to beat you. And he goes, are you sure about that? I don't think you're going to beat me, and just proceeds to belt the snot out of someone. So, yeah, they're the sort of games I like playing.
So I'm going to rewind it back because we were talking about Final Fantasy a little bit earlier, and you were talking about your reservations with it and whatnot. And I'm wondering if the reservations has to do with Final Fantasy or Square Enix, because they have been looking lately, like I mean, whether it's public statements that they're making, the moves that they kind of been making within the industry, the way that they make those statements publicly, and then also some of the ways that they kind of treat the development within the games, where they kind of where it almost seems like, I mean, you just seen what's his name not that long ago, one of the people that were supposed to be the writers for Square Enix come out and say, yo, that wasn't my idea, really. Like, my idea got completely switched and whatnot. So is that kind of why you're nervous with this whole or this whole Final Fantasy thing? Is because it seems like Square Enix is kind of getting in their own way a little bit?
Yeah, there's too much corporate interference. And you'll see it on Twitter and some of the stuff I've been saying in the more recent months there. Some of these creative guys have got to get out from under these corporate juggernauts. The corporate stuff is killing them. And
you seen the guy from Tango today left. You see the guy from Tango today left. We don't know why he left, but it's just like I just watched Iron Lawrence podcast. I think it was last week or the week before. I think it was just this last weekend. And the creator or the head honcho, I'm having a brain fart right now. Gears of War, Epic. The guy from Epic. I can't think of the name right off the top of my head. But anyways, he was saying essentially,
Cliffy B.
Cliffy, thank you, Cliffy. Cliffy B. Cliffy B was what was saying that these big time companies with gaming, whether it be Nintendo, Microsoft, or Xbox, they're really kind of drowning out or trying to get rid of that like big popular mantra in gaming where this dude is that guy. They want it to be like more of a less of a team kind of thing instead of like this dude is the big man on campus. They don't want no more Kojimas anymore.
Exactly.
Because they don't want somebody to be able, and in my opinion, why they don't want that is because you give that person a big head, he leaves your company's garbage now.
Yeah.
And that's happened so many times lately.
Oh, absolutely. And there's two main reasons, and that's one of them. And the other reason is this whole notion of it stems from sports, and it gives me the irrits like you wouldn't believe, because it's not necessarily true in sports. It's misconstrued. If you have a team of team players, you should be more successful than a team of individuals, right? And you see that in sport all the time. You can have a superstar team of all these great individuals that just go to garbage because everybody's just playing for themselves, thinking that they've got to do it all. And then you'll get a team of people that are team orientated, that are good at what they do, will rise above and succeed. They do the same sort of stuff in business, where we want to have that role interchangeable. So we set up all these process, procedures, and structures so that anyone can do that role, provided they've got this background. But what it does is it kills the creativity side of it. And Shinji Mikami's been on the whispers of leaving that thing for nearly 12 months because of various different reasons. But if you've got somebody that's that good at what they do, let them do it. If you want to put this cookie cutter business notion of everyone's interchangeable into it, you're going to have these guys walk out in droves, especially now that there's funding available, there's an appetite available for them to just go out and start up their own studio, a la Kojima style. He's that good. He can walk out and say, I need some funding and I need some people. I'm going to make this game. Who wants it? And people are just going to line up for it. Now, is that good for the industry? Jury's out. I think it's great from the perspective of we get really talented people able to put together these really, really good small teams to develop games that they're passionate about making, that they will put their time and effort into. And that's the total opposite, looping it back to Final Fantasy, to what I'm worried about is going to happen with Final Fantasy 16. You got Yoshi P and you got his creative business unit working on it. That's great. But is he doing a game that he wanted to do? Or is he doing a game that he's been told he has to do? And if it's the second one, that he's working within the confines of corporate instruction, it's not going to go as well as it could, because he's had a lot of freedoms taken away from him. But then my issue is more with Square than the game developers itself, because again, Final Fantasy VII had a storyline to it. They wouldn't even dare go near that kind of storyline today. It'd be too risky. They would end up getting howled down from left, right, and center about it. You know, which is really strange because how dare someone make up a story in today's day and age about some corporate juggernaut sucking the planet dry of all the life force just to try and make money? And it's an environmental catastrophe. Like, you would think that'd go well today, but the amount of opponents it would have would be nuts. No one would be game to do it. But then what is the story there? From what we've seen of Final Fantasy 16, the combat looks awesome. It's got plenty of big, aeons and summons and it all looks really cool. But what's the storyline? I'm not sold that there's a genuine storyline there other than that person killed this person, so we're going over there for revenge. Like, give me something new. Come up with something that people will be passionate about. And I get the sense that it's Square Enix as the corporate saying you can't do anything that could be remotely considered controversial, which means it's going to flat. The game's just going to be flat. But Square Enix is doing some really odd stuff. I'll digress for a second. Funny piece. I played the Forspoken demo for about 10 minutes, right?
Oh no!
At the end of 10 minutes.
Why only 10 minutes? I mean, that's why I say, oh no. I don't say, oh no, to you playing Forspoken. I'm just like when I hear somebody play something for 10 minutes, it's usually never followed up with something good.
I played it for 10 minutes, and at the end of 10 minutes, I stopped it and I said, that's a Square Enix game. And that was it. I had zero interest in it since then. Because the movement, yep, this is a Square Enix game. And the combat, yep, this is a Square Enix game. It was just on par for what you'd expect from Square. Wasn't anything flash, wasn't anything new. I got the combat, fair enough, but it's nothing that was drawing me in to say, you must play this instead of Horizon Forbidden West, or instead of God of War Ragnarok, or instead of this, instead of that. Or it was just, it's okay. It's a Square Enix game, but that's it. And that was the biggest disappointment for me. All the technical issues and all the other stuff that's associated with that game being good, bad, or indifferent.
What
that
about
was
it
the thing
felt
that disappointed me the most?
What about it felt so familiar to you? To like yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put if you're gonna open up an umbrella and say this is just what it is, like what about it just said kind of basic? Or I mean, because a lot of people say the similar and there are a lot more fans for Horizon than there are for Forspoken, but there are a lot of the same. I don't know. I feel like the two games could be kind of comparable in a way, a little bit. How it's big open world, you go in, but like the story in Horizon's taken serious as to where the Forspoken story is like kind of just, I don't know what it is. It's weird.
I understand what you're saying. For me, when I say it's a Square Enix game, the skill tree is the progression you would expect. There's nothing weird, wonderful, and different on that. Whereas Horizon, it's a lot more customizable. You can learn this bit and tailor your gameplay to that, or you can tailor your gameplay. So, for example, in Horizon Forbidden West, you can tailor your skill development to be someone like myself who likes to get up close and personal and sneak and infiltrate and stab and all close combat. You can progress that a lot quicker at your desire than sitting further back and using the bow, or even using machines as your primary source of transit, or using traps and whatnot. There's 5 or 6 different ways you can actually play that game, and they're very distinct from each other depending on your play style. What I found, and yes, I only played 10 minutes, what I found from that demo was it was telling me that this is how you traverse, this is how you interact with these types of enemies. And then all you're doing is powering up and developing, broader to the enemy types that's coming, which is not really dissimilar to what a lot of Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest games or the other ones that they have is, here's where you start, this is your skill progression to get to there, and this is how you interact with those enemies, and it's it's flat, but it's very prescriptive. There's not a lot of freedom in it. The storyline, I could really give or take it with the Horizon one. It was intriguing, but it wasn't intriguing enough for me. But I don't know. It's like Remnant from the. It's very similar to what Remnant from the Ashes was, or some of the other standalone. I may even go far back as saying Vagrant Story or something like that. It's here's the character set. There's the goal. Go forth and do, and just get a bit more powerful as you go. And I was a bit left feeling a bit flat. There was no wow factor in any one particular thing. But
I can
again,
understand that.
there's nothing wrong from my perspective. There's nothing wrong to say that it should be thrown in the $5 bargain bin tomorrow. It just felt like a Square Enix game. It felt like a Square Enix RPG. It just didn't have that boost, and that I suppose is what makes me fear for Final Fantasy 16. Is the same stuff with the hour I played with Final Fantasy 15. It feels like a Square Enix game, but it just doesn't have that top shelf piece. And are they going to be able to get back to that magic, or have they plateaued? And the corporate stuff it's a complete basket case in itself. So,
Gotcha. So, in other words, just doesn't stand alone on its own, like enough, in your opinion.
yeah, it's a double A game. I greatest respects to everyone who put it together. Forspoken is a top end double A game. It is not a triple A game in my perspective.
Ooh, okay. All right, fair enough. All right, so let's move on from there, because I got a few other questions before we end up at the top of the hour. I really want to know, like, as for like being into games, that's one thing, but getting into the business of games is another thing, right? Tell me a little bit about what you do when it comes to like gaming or content creation or whatever. Like outside of sitting there and playing the game, what are you doing for gaming?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm not directly employed by any gaming organisations at the moment. But my involvement or interaction, a lot of people will notice, is around the business side of it. So by my profession, I'm financial controller, CFO, accounting manager. I'm at the top end of that part of business. So my day-to-day role is basically building financial statements, and I've having had experience working for global companies as well, and I've built financial statements across global organisations and contributed to that. So that's my professional life. That's what I do day to day, and I spend a lot of hours doing it. So what ended up happening is, by chance, I got involved in listening to a couple of spaces and some podcasts and whatnot, and I got into a conversation with a couple of people around 3 years ago, I think it was. Something was going on, and I said, oh, look, that's a whole lot of bullshit, because the statements are saying this. And I just by chance happened to have a conversation with Optimus Code about a couple of things behind the scenes and shared some thoughts with him. And then I got invited onto a couple of podcasts and a bit more online. And that's sort of where my involvement stands to a lot, is being involved in these conversations around how's the industry looking, what are the financials for these companies saying, is there anything that can be gleaned from them, and is there any disinformation that needs to be quashed, is there any information that's not being fully spoken about, what are my thoughts on X, Y, and Z, and it's where a lot of the misconception that I hate Xbox comes from. I don't hate Xbox. I don't like Microsoft and how much they squash Xbox. And I would really, really like for Xbox to get out from under that corporate juggernaut for the same reason as what Square Enix is going through all these problems. The corporate side is squashing the creativity side. But when you say that, straight away you're an Xbox hater. Now, I'll take that on board. I don't mind that's how people want to see it. But when you're presenting, when I'm presenting those sort of thoughts and opinions, it's not coming from a place of random. This is what I think. Is like there's a fair bit of there's 2 university degrees and 15 years of experience coming behind these opinions. So there's others out in the Twitter sphere that engage in similar manners and share similar thoughts. But I just like to help people understand what's being said, where there is that confusion, and people see financial reports that said this X, Y, and Z. Like, and the funniest one I had last year or the year before was that Xbox was. Oh, I can't remember what it was now. Like the Xbox was doing something, and the expectation was that they'd somehow made a $20-something billion profit out of $16 billion worth of revenue. I'm like, well, that's not actually how that works. But they did make $16 billion in revenue, which, considering the year that they had, was actually pretty good.
Right, because it was a frightening type of year for the fan.
Yeah, it was. There was, to make 16. Look, and I get stuck into them at times around their profitability and sustainability, but it's more aimed at Microsoft than Xbox. But and you and I have spoken about my thoughts on whether they're underperforming or not. But to have a year where you've effectively got no major first-party releases and you're getting, say you're getting stomped by the opposition or by your competitors, but you're not, in the general social media world, there's just a lot going on. To do $16 billion is not to be laughed at, though. That's a serious amount of money. I'd love to see someone pull that out of their back pocket.
And I think where people get it misconstrued is we, for the most part, in this conversation of what we're talking about is Xbox first party games. Separate that from Game Pass. Those are 2 totally different things. I understand that first party games go into Game Pass, but when everybody says Xbox had a rough year last year, we're not talking about the 16 billion. We know that's fantastic. We're not talking about Game Pass. We know they took advantage of third party. That's great for us. Sure. But for us, of those that are looking for something big from Obsidian, 343 to stay consistent, Bethesda to come out with their game when they said they would do it, Arcane the same. Like, when we talk about that, that's where we say, yo, there are frustrating points. And in the sense of first party games, Xbox was very frustrating last year. And then people want to argue with it, but it's like, yo, the head of Xbox literally came out and said that he was disappointed. What is there to argue about? It is what it is.
Exactly. And that's the frustration that boils out in myself, where, and again, this is what my content creation, part of my involvement in it is. I put out a tweet thread the other day, and it erupted in a bad way, as I thought it would. But the question was, what can they do? And I like the best thing that they could do is get out from under Microsoft, get somebody who's cashed up to buy it, invest in it, give them a 5-year plan, and just let them go and let them make games and not worry about all this other peripheral bullshit. And
that would be interesting, but I got a question for you since we're on this this topic, and I'm going to kind of flip the script a little bit, right? Because I want this to, I really want to see your opinion on this, because your opinion about like kind of stifling and, creativity, yada, yada, and whatnot. How do you feel on the aisle of Sony then? Because I feel like we could use a lot of this same argument of stifle of creativity, or less like I'm not going to say like creativity in the sense of like not knowing what they're doing to get to get the bag. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what we were talking about earlier with, kind of playing it safe. I felt like when I was playing, Horizon, I was like, this game it's a little too safe. It's weird that I'm this badass, but whenever I fight like people, like there ain't no blood. Yeah. There ain't like Aloy is really kind of monotone, and I wish she was like, I wish she was like, I wish there was a button I could hold, like I could hold L1, hit circle, and she does like a war yell or something like that, and like runs into battle or something, and like same kind of with like I don't know, and that's why I kind of like I don't want to just beat up on like Microsoft or Square Enix, but it's like an industry type of thing. Even like I said with Sony as well, we're all at the edge of our seats, biting our nails, wondering how Wolverine's going to come out looking.
Yeah.
20 years ago, we knew it was going to be foul. We didn't have to think about it.
We did. We knew exactly what it would be.
We knew it was going to be something like we were almost wondering if it was going to be overboard because of games like Grand Theft Auto, EA Big was out there doing too much. I mean, like there was a lot of games.
Was good.
I mean, Rockstar was outside. Remedy was outside. Like these companies were not Bethesda's been out there doing wild stuff. They've been there doing wild stuff. I think they get kind of a pass because that community is just ruthless. They don't give a damn.
Yeah, that's right.
And Bethesda knows who to cater to. They're not gonna they're not gonna turn around and say, you know what, we're gonna change everything because they know what we like. They know what their players like. But when I looked at like I said, this last Horizon or even the God of Wars. You can even say, as great as God of War is, everyone says 2018 and Ragnarok ain't nothing like God of War of the old.
Oh,
in the sense of brutality, just absolutely being foul, just all that stuff.
Could you imagine the original 3 God of War 1, 2, and 3 being upscaled into, let's say, Decima Engine or Unreal Engine 5 or something with the amount of blood and violence and gore and sexes and nudity? Like, man, it would be R-rated before they even got it out the shop to go. Like, but just, there's and again, different time, different era. But yes, Sony does play the safe card in a lot of instances where they get to a point and you go, oh, they could have just gone a little further and it would have been so much better. But I think because they've got such a narrow, and again, there's positives and negatives about this, because they've got such a narrow viewpoint on what they are as a brand, and Marvel's exactly the same. They have, this is what our brand is. We've got this safe and security, and we make bank with it, and we're not going to change it. And Sony, and I've criticised them for it as well. They just stick to that. That's their happy days. They make money, great. It does stifle some of the creative freedom in it, and we do see that come through in some of the games. Like, you remember when they did the upgrade for The Last of Us Part 1. So they had the original, and then they did the remaster to put it on the PS4, and then they cranked it up in whatever the most recent thing was for PS5. They have not increased the violence in that at all appropriately or proportionately to what it really should be. Because, like you say, you click a Rich Joel's head open if you end up not stabbing them properly, and it's just a quick tear, a bit of a scream, flash of blood on the screen that's gone. Why do we not get to see it lift the whole thing open? Like there's immersion points and stuff that could be better. But again, they're trying to sell a message and without going too hard. But yeah, there's the loops back into something else I was saying earlier. Indie games are where we're going to see a lot of this. That's why I like indie games so much. There's a lot of creative freedom in those smaller studios. If, for example, Shinji Mikami's able to go out and get funding and have his own little studio, and he's not under those rules and I've said in Twitter threads before, I said the corporate rules require X, Y, Z because they got an image to uphold. Then don't let these guys get held to those image requirements. Let them have their own little thing. If they want to go out and make an absolute grotesque, absolute monstrous, violent, whatever it is, and it's on their heads, that's great. Then they'll get funding from somewhere to do it. But yeah, Sony should, and rightly so, get the same, the tar with the same brush as everyone else is getting. If there's this corporate imagery that they just don't want to tarnish, then you are stifling creativity to a degree. And I don't particularly like it, but they, for some reason, we said, God of War, Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, and all that, they're really good games. They could be better, but they're still really good games. So their bar of minimum pass, I guess, is slightly higher than others. But that's not to say that they're the greatest. Look at what happened with the Callisto Protocol. Yes, it was plagued by a few issues and had a few issues here and there. That's why I don't buy games day one. I'll wait until the patches come out and then I can first experiences enjoy it. And that's another thing that shits me about the gaming industry is games being released without being finished. But the Callisto Protocol was small studio with backing, and for a first crack at it, yes, industry veterans involved, but you would struggle to find that game being made in that manner in most other places at the moment, especially in the big three. So,
and you make a strong point right there. In fact, Nelson Gaming in the chat said that wouldn't be able to be sold in most countries. And when you bring up Callisto Protocol, that was a game that was actually, cut off by a few countries, saying that, hey, this game is a little too violent. We can't have it. Martha is Dead not that long ago. Sony said, stop it. like we're not adding all of that content in there. So that's why I kind of wanted to really get your idea of like where you think these companies are kind of going, because when we first kind of brought it up, we were talking about, Square Enix. Then we kind of jumped to Microsoft. Now it's Sony. We already know Nintendo's always been about like kind of keeping crazy stuff off of their platform for the most part. They do sneak in some stuff. They do sneak in some stuff that you would go and you download and you'd be like, hell no, Nintendo did not do that. They do. They do some weird stuff when you ain't looking. But for the most part, their image, what they want to portray is very, I don't know.
Family. Very family friendly for them, isn't it?
It is very family friendly, but I feel like all of these companies are wearing a mask of family friendly, but they're not family friendly at all. And just with that being said, I'm just like, where are these games at that will allow the authenticity to run through?
Yeah, exactly. Really, the only place you can get that stuff at the moment is Steam. And it's a bit of a, and again, I'm very passionate about indie games, and I think that's going to be the place where we're going to see the most experimentation and development and game mechanics and all this weird and wonderful stuff that we used to get from the big three that we don't get anymore. And is it a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing because it's spreading the love a bit, so to speak. But yeah, just I don't know. That corporate imagery is really, really big, and the litigation factors come into play, and then the lawyers get involved. It's just, let us, like you said, it's not okay. Martha is dead. It's not okay to do what they said. No, you can't have that as a button prompt. You can still watch it, but you can't have it as a button prompt. All right, cool. Yet you can have young females in school uniforms that are, who knows how old they are, dancing around on the screen as long as they're in anime. And that's not a problem? Like, cultural appropriateness, depending, but like, come on.
It is weird it is definitely weird what they like green light and what they don't green light, what they pretty much say is okay and don't say is okay. Do you think the awkwardness in the sense for Microsoft is that they're just louder about how creative they are, yet you see, as Josh was saying in the chat, they just keep having people leaving, yet they say how creative they're allowing their people to be, yet people keep. I mean, not that long ago, Mike Brown from Forza Horizon Playground studio guy, he left to create his own studio. I think that's kind of been the trend as of lately, and it seems really trendy, as in like, oh, Microsoft has another person leaving. But if you've looked around the industry, it's been a lot of people leaving to create their own stuff, and that's not just from Microsoft. It's from a lot of different places. People are just like, you know what? I'm done with this of what you're talking about, this corporate BS. I'm done washing my hands with it, and I'm going to go make a game, and I'm going to see how many people follow me over here.
Yeah, and it comes back to that barrier of entry argument that you hear brought up a lot with these big acquisitions and all this other crap that goes on with regulators. At the moment, there's money. If you've got an idea and some history and some runs on the board, so to speak, you can go and start up your own little studio. You just need half a dozen people, a couple of computers. The startup cost is bugger all. Where it gets expensive is when you're trying to find which tool to use and then invest in the labor to build it. Now, the tools are getting bigger and better to use. The labor is becoming cheaper and cheaper if you've got smaller and smaller. Like Sifu is a great example. 2.5 years to make that game, 30 people, cost them a couple of $1 million. For someone like Microsoft or Sony or Square Enix, whoever it is, even if it's someone like Savvy or BlackRock as a private investor, a couple of $1 million invested into that, get a marketing deal with one of the big three, publish the thing quite quickly, and off you go. It only has to sell a couple 100,000 copies at $40, $50, and you've made your return on investment. And the risk is so minimal from a financial perspective. But then if you try and do, something that competes with God of War and you got to pour $200 million into it and 5 or 6 years development, like you're talking about year 7, year 8 before you even get any money back on it, and the risk is just too high. But the opportunity for them to go out, set up their own thing, do their own thing, I don't think it comes from so much from the stifling of the Yes, stifling creativity is a big part of it, but I don't think specifically for the question around Microsoft, because they're doing it everywhere. But the piece around Microsoft, I don't think they're leaving because of the issue around creative freedom. I think the issue, well, more a professional opinion than anything else, is they're leaving because of there's something happening in there at the corporate side of it that they're getting instruction that they don't want to do. Because if you've basically got a blank check to make whatever you like, why would you leave? You get all that massive support, free money, do whatever you like. There's got to be a reason that it's making them not want to stay there. Now, what that is, we can only speculate. Some information comes across about what they're required to do, how they're required to build it, what they're meant to do, that can condense what they can achieve or what they can use to achieve it. But I feel there's something Microsoft related rather than Phil saying you've got freedom and Matt going you've got freedom to do whatever you like. I think there's something from a bit further up the chain in that organizational structure that's governance related or something like that. It's just not allowing them to be happy with what they want to do. And again, Halo Infinite's a great example of how to destroy something quickly when you let people from an executive level get involved with the doing work and not understanding the complexities of it. But it's sad. It's not sad in a way that, from my perspective, it's not sad that it's happening. It means that, yes, they've left. Somebody gets an opportunity to step up, and we get the benefit of, instead of just having one, now we've got two opportunities to see an awesome game coming. The smaller studios tend to kick them out faster, but it's down to if you're prepared to accept that it might not be top flight AAA standard, but it's got an awesome mechanic. It's got pretty decent graphics, and it's an interesting game, which is fine with me. I'm all for it. Let's have a look at it.
I tell you, the thing that really frustrates me in this whole like conversation that we're having, like the thing that really frustrates me with gaming is just like the kind of toe dip approach that these companies are going with. And as I said, yeah, you can say, yeah, Halo and with 343, sure, you can say, whatever. I mean, I'd say the one that's not toe dipping is Nintendo. They know, they're very confident when they throw some stuff out. They do it with their chest out. But as for Microsoft, they kind of toe dip a little bit. Sony, kind of the same thing, toe dip a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and this deal tells me a lot about how scared some of these companies are to really put effort in certain directions. You can say, Microsoft is scared to build from the ground up. So they buy something, sure. But then you look across the aisle and say, these people are too scared to build something to compete. So it's like two scared people being thrown into a boxing ring. Neither one of them really want to fight each other.
Yeah, exactly.
But the referee said it's on.
Yep.
And one says, one side says, I have a lot of money, but we still need resources. And the other side says, we got a lot of popularity, but I don't know if we can do it. It's just like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like, it is like a cringy slap fight.
It is. It's like, what's that? I can't think of the movie now. It might be Sergeant Bilko, where they've paid off. The one fighter's been told he's been paid off, and the other one gets the cash by mistake up front, and they spend an entire 12 round fight just dancing around each other. And the referee at the end finally goes, "That's it. Someone throw a punch," and they both throw at the same time. They both knock each other out. It's like seeing that all the time because PlayStation's got the capability, but up until very recently, they'd never had that amount of money to be able to go after it. But Microsoft has had the money to pour in their Xbox, but they've never had that knowledge of how to build it from the ground up. And the couple of times that they have tried, they've gotten really close, but then they pull the plug on it because some guy up at Microsoft says, that's not worth continuing investing in. Let's just cut our losses. And it changes like the wind. But then they're two, and this is where like you said, Nintendo know what they're doing, and they just do it. And they make good bank. They're not industry leader, but Jesus, they make decent money for the inputs they have.
He said, I'm going to hop in the HOV lane and I'll see y'all there.
Just see you there, lads. Have a good time. And I still think that their boss name's Doug Bowers is the greatest thing ever. But you get Xbox and PlayStation. Like, yes, there's always rivalries. It doesn't matter what it is, but they could coexist so well without tripping over each other if they just focused on what they need to focus on instead of looking over their shoulders at each other. And again, it comes down to one's got the cash, the other one's got the drive, but they're just constantly there, like holding each other, threatening to throw a punch, but they never really do it.
Really holding each other back, just consistently holding each other back. In a way, yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, they're so worried about what's going on in the grass is greener over there. Oh crap! Oh crap! Sony's putting out a dope AAA game. God of War is coming out. Dope. Oh crap! They got freaking Game Pass and they're getting more subscribers. Let's hurry up and throw something out. Yeah, it's just like what? Why are y'all struggling? Just stay in your lane.
Exactly. But it comes down to that whole point. I know we've diverged into everything I said I didn't want to talk about, but the argument of, Nintendo doesn't care if you got an Xbox or a PC or a PlayStation. They don't care. They just want you to buy their thing and buy their games. And they couldn't care less, to a degree, what else you do with your other money. But then it's not a matter of, if Xbox and PlayStation are there, whether they're pitched against each other by force, by desire, by however it comes across in the media. It's just they're in the two that are in there, and they just by nature have to be constantly competing. They're two very different business models with two very different perspectives on what their goals are, to the point where you shouldn't be comparing the two of them. From my perspective, they're that far apart. The things that Xbox does really well,
Strategy for sure.
PlayStation's got no chance of doing. Yeah. And the things that PlayStation does very well, Xbox is pointless trying to compete on those perspectives. Even if you went and bought it, there's no point. Just, we're good at this, you're good at that. Let's just push it forward and elevate the whole industry. But yeah, again, it comes back to, because of this competition that's not really competing, it's like a Cold War, so to speak. They've got people jumping ship to go and do their own thing because they're sick of the bullshit that goes on with it. So, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
It's crazy.
I see. So,
yeah, anyway.
So let's hop, skip, and jump away from that. Now, I feel like we've done enough of that. But so you've talked about now, like, what you do a little bit, like, within your job and whatnot. But what drove you to actually coming in to do, like, content creation and being on people's podcasts and stuff like that? Because I mean, not a lot of, I don't think a whole lot of people that are within the business are as comfortable as you are to jump on and just say what you have to say, you know, and just kind of keep it moving, right? So I want to know what really kind of tipped you into, you know, being like, you know what, I got something to say.
Yeah, so I can put it down to one exact event, and that got me intrigued, like really got me into it, and it sort of just blossomed from there. There was this, after Bethesda got bought, there was this big thing in social media that, that's it, Microsoft has won, Bethesda's been bought, that's the end of it, PlayStation's doomed. And I actually voiced up and said, hang on a minute, they just bought Bethesda for $7 billion. When are you actually going to see something out of this deal? It'll be 2 or 3 years' time, because remember, Deathloop and That's Why Tokyo are the next two games coming out of Bethesda. Starfield's a long way down the path. You're not going to see anything really coming out for the next 2 years. And this was before Starfield got delayed. And everyone was like, oh, no, it's big news. I was like, yeah, but where's the evidence that it's going to cause this shift? You've got to wait time to be able to see how it's going to work, because they bought it today. It settles in 6 or 9 months' time. You're not going to the next day all of a sudden have all these games disappear from PlayStation. They're not just going to rip them all off and off you go, because you know the way that this thing works and way business works. If they did that, that's committing, you know, business suicide to a degree. And it was at that point where I got engaged, and some smart person popped up and said, oh, Microsoft's just going to buy Square Enix and buy Sega and buy all these other ones. And I was like, they can't actually just go in and buy them. You do realize that there's some pretty stringent rules around acquisitions in Japan. And I can't remember who exactly it was, but they were adamant that Microsoft was just going to buy everyone. And I got involved in a conversation, as I said, with Optimus Code about this, and he invited me onto a Spaces, and then I got invited onto a podcast from there. But that's how I got involved, was people that had no clue were just sprouting absolute garbage and detracting from the broader conversation of these games are coming out. We've got a whole brand new consoles are coming. Just pulling away from the hype of what was to be. And then, that's how I got dragged. I shouldn't say dragged in. I really did just get annoyed with the conversation at the time. I just stuck my head up and said, hey, that is garbage. This is how it actually is, based on this information. And I always provide links and supporting documents and whatnot to help people understand better what actually goes on. But yeah, I can't remember who it was for the life of me, but they were acting like it was literally they were nailing the coffin shut on PlayStation when Microsoft bought Bethesda. I was like, you're going to be waiting a couple of years to actually see any fruit out of this. And as it turns out, in hindsight, we're still effectively waiting. But I don't know. That's how it came to be. And ever since then, I've spent a lot of time on Woolies. There was a panel member on Woolies podcast. Been on Doomsayers a bit. Been on Mooches. Been on Braps. Had a couple of sessions on yours with Loke and Cozy, and yeah, I just happy to show up and discuss stuff where it's basically quashing disinformation.
Right. So, yeah, I got a kind of interesting kind of question, and it kind of was brought on due to the chat. Josh in the chat says Microsoft president counted old Bethesda games as their games the other day. That was funny. But do you or do you not agree that technically it is theirs?
Well, this comes down to,
I know it's a sore kind of, yeah, it's a
well,
sore kind of thought
not.
process, right? But
yeah,
I mean, when somebody has a car and they sell it to you, is it your cars or is it still theirs?
It's yours. No, but that's it. It comes down to the question. The question is that at what point in time are we considering this? Did Xbox create those games? No. Do they own them now? Yes. So is it created or owned? That's the difference. You can't. And I understand where Josh is coming from with that. Microsoft owns Bethesda, and it's nestled in under Microsoft Gaming, which means that by subset of however the hell they've got that thing structured at the moment, it's part of Xbox Games. Even though ZeniMax is its own thing, they all report to Phil. Phil's the head of Microsoft Gaming. Happy days. They own them. Straight out. They can include them in anything they like. They can say total revenues for lifetime of whatever. It's theirs. And they can say it, and they can be honest about it. But when they say we own it versus we built it and we sold it, no. You didn't create it. You own it now, but you didn't create it. But that's the same with like you said with the car example. You bought the car brand new, you drove it for 100,000 miles, and then I buy it. And I say, hey, I got a car with 110,000 miles on it. Well, I didn't do the first 100,000, but I didn't pay for all the stuff that you had to pay for to do that first 100,000. So it's I own it now, but I can't claim that I did all those kilometers. But when you're talking about this sort of stuff, you're getting into semantics about, and this is the sort of stuff that does annoy me, getting into the semantics about who did what, when, and where. Does it really matter?
No.
At what point does it really fucking matter? Like, come on. And I just one the other day, I can't remember what I was talking to. We were chatting about something. I think I might have been on Braps. We're talking about bundles. That's what it was. Is another thing that ticks me off. Oh, Horizon was bundled and God of War was bundled and this, that, and stars. I'm like, does it really matter? What does it matter? Who cares? They sold that many games. They sold that many consoles. That's fucking great. But it's not costing you or me money, and it's not putting money in your or my pockets. Does it matter? No. Just play the damn game,
Sure. Okay, so more or less. So now that we kind of got that out of the way, I guess. I just thought that was kind of fun to read off because, I mean, it kind of doesn't matter, but it's just kind of it's still super fresh, right? So with the freshness comes awkwardness, because if we look at this deal in 30 or 40 years or something like that, let's say Microsoft is still around, they're still doing their thing, Sony's doing whatever, and Nintendo's doing it. Let's say they're all like, doing their things, but like you say, man, that Skyrim game by Xbox is dope. And someone says, that's not an Xbox game. And then someone's like, come on, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's
just as cringy as it's just as cringy Sure. I mean, us that are old enough may know, and you could do this with old school, like when, like when you're like, oh man, that game came out by Sierra. That wasn't an Activision game. You're just like, whatever.
But it's the same with the Crash Bandicoot games. The first three, Crash 1, 2, 3, and the kart racing game, all Naughty Dog games. So you say, oh, Crash Bandicoot's awesome. It's like, yeah, it's an Activision game. I'm like, well, no, actually, it wasn't an Activision. But come on, this is the console war stuff this is the fun side of console warring, right? This is semantics. It's great to talk about it. All we're doing is showing how old we are.
Right, yeah, right. You're boomering it for them. Let them enjoy. Let them enjoy their moment.
But it is on that. Sorry, I'll diverge here. But on that, it is quite funny that Activision owns both Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. Crash Bandicoot was a Naughty Dog owned by Sony. Spyro was Insomniac, now owned by Sony.
And here we are.
Oh,
all right, so really fun. That was a great first hour that turned into an hour and a half. Now we're gonna go into
sorry.
No. It was great. I had a good time, good talk, good discussion, good information. But now I kind of want to ask some fun questions, I guess. So before we get into that, I want you, and I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, but I don't want to forget to do this because this is important to me. I've been doing it on my podcast as of lately, and I just want to give you the opportunity to shout out some fantastic people within the community and also some people that help you get to where you are within gaming, whether it's, something you want to say, work wise or content creating or whatever.
Yeah. So for shout outs, there's a couple. There's a few of us that are involved in a Gran Turismo 7 racing league, and we all sort of we're on a WhatsApp chat and all that sort of stuff. So social destruct, he's a legend. He won't like me saying this, but he's actually purchased a couple of VR2 headsets for a couple of people because he just wants to enjoy that Gran Turismo 7 in VR with other people. So there's him, OT, Marlon, Retro. They're all and DeWolf and those, they're all in a GT7 racing league that is more than that. We get in there and have fun and chat about it, but it's we talk about stuff like most of us are fathers, so we talk about dad things. We talk about things more than just the game itself, broader gaming stuff. So those guys are a really good source of commonality, and the sort of stuff that people get in the gaming community, that they're the sort of niche groups that you look for, people with similar interests, people with similar life progression and all the rest of it. Those guys are really, really fun to hang around with, and Retro's, the Northern Irish guy, is pretty angry all the time. We love to give him shit about it. So there's some guys that I highly recommend having a follow for. Woolly's pretty good. A lot of people give him a lot of crap because he's very opinionated, but when it comes to the gaming side of things, and just looking at the gaming side of things, he genuinely cares a lot about the gaming industry, and he's put a lot of effort into trying to promote gaming. Brat and Mooch and some of the other guys that have got their shows there, they're holding their own, I suppose is the way of putting it. They've got very good shows and very broad shows in that respect. But if I had to narrow it down to sort of one or two people, I'd say DeWolf on Twitter. He is an extremely intelligent person, and he's got an awesome beard, and he is somebody is very much old school like us. He was there in the original days, and he went through all the pain and suffering we had to go through with the 2D side scrolling, all that. He's been there since day one, and he's really cool. So he's one that I'd highly recommend. He's not as active as most people are, but he's really cool to keep an eye out for. And yeah, the other one that I think is probably an underrated person on social media is probably this is going to sound a bit corny, but it's slow mo backslap. He cops it a bit, but he's quite an intelligent. He doesn't give away as how intelligent he actually is. And yes, he has some interesting takes at times, and I've had a few discussions on opposite sides with him. But he's and the crew that he runs around with, so to speak, online, and he's always welcoming. Like the few times we've chatted to him, been on shows and whatnot, and we get to the green room after the show, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to play this. Here's my gamer tag. Jump on. Doesn't matter. Just come on. We'll have fun. We'll play. We might have just had a 10-minute argument on opposing sides, and he's like, "Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. Let's just go and play some games." So he's really cool in that respect. So, but then I'm seeing a side to them that not everybody might be. So, yeah, a few that I think are worth, because obviously I can't shout you out on your own show because we're already here. So
yeah, that's fine. You don't have to do that. But I appreciate you taking the time to honor those people that you do follow, you do enjoy, and you do enjoy keeping up with and whatnot on whether it's a weekly, daily, or monthly basis or whatnot. So that's awesome. But keeping it moving, I want to know throughout all of like the memories that you've had in gaming, what is probably the one that sticks out the most?
Oh, so and we'll let people into the magic on this. You did warn me about this one particular question before, so I could think about it. There's so many, and as I said, I've got a vivid imagination, so there's so many moments in gaming that I just go, holy shit, that's awesome, And first time playing Sonic 2 was like, holy crap, this is what we can actually do. This is amazing. And just progressing on from there, but like without getting down the line of all the modern major ones like with Sarah, Atreus, Link and the Master Sword, Aerith, and even the white phosphorus incident in Spec Ops: The Line. There's two that really stand out for me. One's from the
That
childhood.
white phosphorus moment was
that was fucked up. I'm sorry for swearing, but that was fucked up. That was one of the ones where I literally found out of it and I went, that's it. I've had enough. I'm not interested in being the bad guy here, and that's just anyway. Good game, but yeah, no, that
makes you feel like a piece afterwards.
I hate games that do that. I really do, because I'm just like, I didn't know and I wouldn't have done it. But anyway, that's good story writing, though. You asked Deezy about that. That's probably someone else I should give a shout out to. Deezy Devs, he's brilliant. Follow him if you don't. Just be careful about opening his tweets when you're at work. But yeah, sorry. The childhood memory was, this one sticks out, and the game is Final Fantasy X on PlayStation 2. I think it was on PlayStation 2. But it sticks out to me because it's the first time I played an RPG game. I know it's not the first one that did it, but the first time I played an RPG game in a series that I liked where there was voice acting. And I say voice acting, yes, I played Metal Gear Solid and you had the cutscenes and all that.
It is unheard of with Final Fantasy, though. Because Final Fantasy was very like caption oriented, where you just read everything.
If you played Final Fantasy VII and everything in that, you read something like 6.5 million words by the time. It was an insane amount of words. But yeah, it was the first time where they'd done voice acting where in the cutscenes you could see the lips moving and there was interaction. It was like, that was the first time I played a game which had that level of interaction and that level of immersion. And that one stuck out for me because that was similar to the first time I ever played Sonic on a Sega Mega Drive. It was, oh, wow, this is great. It's like, holy crap, this is amazing. I never want to go back. And that was, that was big for me as a kid. But then as an adult, I think a lot of people talk about Sarah at the start of The Last of Us, right? And yeah, that one pulls pretty hard. The one that resonated with me the most, though, was at the end of the game, and I'm spoiler warning here, but I'm not going to give much away. Is the end of the game when Joel talks to Ellie right at the end, and what he says, and as a parent, I'm like, I know exactly why he just said that. I know exactly why he just said that, because I would have said exactly the same. We do it in our day-to-day lives as adults. We speak like that to our kids to protect them. That doesn't mean that what we're doing is technically right, but we do it to protect them. And that one just resonated with me, and it still does. I can't wait to see the end of the show, how they do that scene, because it's going to be something. It's really going to be something. But I understand exactly why he did it, and I understood, and I liked him for it. But at the same time, I was like, you bastard, you are going to wear that and regret that from now to the day you die. And it's like, progress on to The Last of Us Part 2 and all the rest of it there. But that was probably the one on adulters. Was like, man, that's just, I love you and I hate you at the same time. I understand why you did it, but geez, you should not have done that. So, but yeah, they're probably two gaming moments. But I think when, in terms of the big moments in gaming, I don't think there's been any acquisitions where I've gone, holy crap, that's going to change the course of history with gaming, and present day included. It's impactful, but I don't think it's going to change the course of history. But with the advent of mobile gaming and a heap of other stuff that's just made it the behemoth that it is, I'm just glad to be involved, really.
Absolutely, man. That's dope. So what I want to hit next time is kind of awkward for some people because some people don't want to be honest. but I want to know what genre in gaming that you just hate or just don't really like. I've had so many people that I've had to come on here, and when I use the word hate or don't like, they take it personal. But then I mention a specific game they don't like, and they're like, I hate that thing because of this, and this, and I'm just like, yeah, you hate something. Everyone hates something. It's just, it's human nature. So, what type of genre in game? If you walked into a store, you would be like, man, if y'all don't get this bullshit up out of here.
Oh, mate, it's a tricky one. I am hopeless at first-person shooters, so I don't play them. I am god-awful hopeless at them. I'm too slow. I can't think fast enough in them. The action's too quick, so I don't like them. But there are some, I really, really don't like them. But it's not necessarily a particular game or style of game. It's something in games that I wish would fuck off and die.
Okay, let me hear.
Microtransaction loot boxes where you don't know what you're getting. I hate those things with a passion. If I'm going to spend money on something, I want to be getting exactly what I fucking want. And any game that has that in it can fuck off and die. Hate it.
You don't like mystery loot boxes?
I hate them. I hate them with a passion. I even hate them when I don't have to pay for it. Like in a lot of turn-based JRPGs, like, what are you going to get in this? I'm like, I don't care. I want that. Just
do you like away. In Gran Turismo the little thing, the little you know what I'm talking about? The little randomizer that goes around the circle.
Randomizer. I hate it. I hate that. It pisses me off so much. I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. The old ones, I think it was all the way up to Gran Turismo 6, I think it was. All the Gran Turismo games until you got to Gran Turismo Sport. You did that race, you got that money, and that's the car you won. And you knew what car you were going to win. And then they got the Sport, and it's like, we'll just have a randomizer, and we won't let you sell the car. Got Gran Turismo Sport, I've got like 15 of these Toyota 86s I can't get rid of, and then it tells me I've got no space in my freaking garage. Oh my, just go away.
He said I got 15 of these goddamn cars.
I can't sell them. Can't give them away. Can't do anything with it. And yeah, the stupid game is telling me I can't sell them. I can't get rid of them.
He
And
said,
I've
"I
got
just
no
want
room
them
left
out
in
of my garage." He's like,
Get rid
"You
of
can
them.
take it for free. I just don't want this damn thing."
I've got too many of these Toyota 86s, and I want to put my Ferrari in there, and it won't let me do it. So,
That's
but yeah,
something.
they're the ones that, and I can't remember for the life of me which game it was that really sparked it off. I think was it an EA game? It might have been, but they had the peak of microtransaction loot boxes where I want to say it was Anthem, but I don't think it was. Was it? I can't remember now which game it was, but it just copped it left, right, and center for it, and I hated it. The idea that you'd pay $2 or $1 or whatever it was, and basically you need this one particular thing. You can only get it in a loot box, and you just keep hammering away until you're lucky to get it. But that means 90% of mobile games I dislike anyway because they've got that stupid mechanic in them. But yeah, it pisses me off. Really does. It irritates me so much.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it definitely promotes gambling, which is
and I suppose
something I'm not a big fan of.
No, and by default, because a lot of battle royales, even third-person battle royales, have had that in them. I can't stand them. I really don't. Like everyone loves Fortnite. I've never played it. No interest. Couldn't care less. PUBG, same deal. Don't like them. Couldn't care less. Not my thing. Like I know I'm stuck at first-person shooters, but at least I persisted with a couple of the Call of Duties because the storyline is enough to make me want to persist. Modern Warfare 2, the original, when they did the remastered and released it on PS Plus, I was like, hell yeah, I'll have another crack at that. But nah, battle royales can go jump.
Yeah, I'm not a battle royale fan at all. That's you could come out with Unreal 6 and freaking and say, man, this is life like you're running around your hometown with your best friends, and I'm good. Like I don't care about none of that. Like I mean, I'm not getting into that. I just don't like it.
I think it comes down to ties back to the whole point of the conversation on why do we like gaming. What do we as an individual want to get out of our experience? And for my son, he loves playing Minecraft. He's built about 5,000 freaking different worlds. And he just sinks hours and hours into it. He's enjoying it because, for whatever reason, I can't stand it because there's no end. I like things with, beginning, middle, end. We start here, we finish there. And you can call it the Mario effect if you want to, but that's what we were brought up on as kids. For those of us who were there at the start, there was the start of a game and there was an end of the game. Even arcade games of Donkey Kong, you were progressing towards some finish. These open games that are just there for the mechanic and no endpoint in sight, that you can just keep pouring money into, what's the fucking point? Like, anyway, that's the stuff that I don't like.
I got you. Yeah. I think that's fair. And I think a lot of us aren't too fond in just the types of ways, and I'm going back to microtransactions, just the types of ways microtransactions are implemented. They just don't. They don't really give you that bang for your dollar, but at the same time, you don't want it to affect your progression in the game. So how do they make it worth your bang for your dollar? So like, I kind of am there with you on like, if you don't know how to implement it, just don't do it then.
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to that whole pay to win. Everyone says, "Oh, we don't want to pay to win." Like, fuck that. If I'm time poor and I can't do 40 plus level ups to get involved in the big end of the multiplayer stuff, let me buy something that gets me there straight away so I can at least be on par. I don't have the time. I can't invest 40 or 50 hours into upgrading all my gear by grinding through the thing. Give me that option. Then it's on me if I want to do it or not. It's not necessarily pay to win.
That's interesting.
It's just pay to catch up.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting take right there, because I haven't heard too many people say that they're willing or they'd like to have more pay to further progress.
Pay to progress, yeah. I mean, if you go and lock this, if you've got a game and the only way you can finish the game is to spend more money on it, and you can't like achieve that through progression, that's fucked up. That is locking people out of finishing the game and enjoying the whole thing. That's an EA thing. We don't want to talk about that. But if you've got, again, Final Fantasy 14 is probably an example. You get the base game for free and you can go up to level 60, and then you're locked out of everything else beyond that. You got to pay for the expansion packs to get up to it. Well, that's great, but like by the time I've gotten to level 60, I've done all this stuff to be able to get into the big multiplayer areas and play with all these other people. But once I've qualified for it, I'm weak as piss and I can't keep up with them. Give me something that allows me to catch up to them so I can at least enjoy the game with other people who've been playing it for the last 5 years.
So kind of like what Destiny does, kind of.
Yeah, Destiny does a really good version of it. It's not the best, but it's a pretty good version of it.
Yeah, so if you weren't around for the last like 3 seasons, the next season that you hop into, you'll at least be the base level of where everybody else is starting with.
Yeah, and it doesn't bring people that have invested thousands of hours into the game back. It just lets you catch up. But companies, entitled to charge you for it. Well, that's fine. If I've got to pay $10 to catch up, so be it. That's my choice. Just offer me the choice.
Gotcha. So going forward, I want to know, what games are you excited for in the near future? So I'm gonna take a couple of them off of the table because you already said them, or at least one of them off the table, and that's Wolverine. I'm taking that off the table. I already know. I'm curious if Final Fantasy made it for you or not. So I'm not going to take that off the table.
Yeah, fair enough.
So just go. Right. Go with that.
Yeah. How many was it? Top 3?
Yeah, at least 3. At least.
Oh, I haven't played Ragnarok yet. I do want to play that.
This has to be games that haven't came out yet.
Oh, they haven't come out yet. Well, Factions. The Last of Us Factions.
Okay.
That's one that I'm quite interested in. Rise of the Ronin, which is going to be 2024. I still think that's the audition. That is the game where Ninja is auditioning for their final buyout into Sony. The thing looks amazing, and the fact that it's still a year and a bit away is like, wow, what else are they putting into that? There's those two. I've already mentioned the Broken Roads from Drop Bear Bite, so I won't include that one. And I've got the last one's a bit of an if. They're talking about bringing back the original Game Boy Pokemon games at some point. And I know my son's going to want them, and I'm actually really looking forward to sharing my experience when I played it with him. So that's sort of a bonding moment that I'm interested in, but it's not really the something that I'm going to be spending a lot of time on. But there's a multiplayer game coming from Fire Sprite, and it's in the same sort of method or style as Apex, and I am very curious to see what that looks like, because they have spent a long time cooking that thing. So they're probably the ones that I'm the most interested in that are coming that I'm aware of. But I mean, there's so much. We saw this morning, Baldur's Gate 3 looks pretty good. Diablo 4's coming. That looks pretty good. There's a shit ton of indie games coming, especially on the Steam. There's one there called Conscript. It's a isometric horror game set in trench warfare in World War One. That thing looks intriguing as hell for me. There's just a lot happening, but then I don't know, the last one from Microsoft. Like, I don't know what's happening with it, but I am curious to see what happens with Hellblade 2. And I really hope that they can get that one across the line. I'm not a big Fable fan, and I don't apologize for that. It just never really grabbed me. I have some serious reservations about if Perfect Dark's going to be any good, particularly since Crystal Dynamics being brought in to work on that one. I've now got a bigger deal with the Tomb Raider game coming. So I'm a bit concerned about whether it's even going to get the attention it deserves, let alone what it needs. But you know, and I'm not hyped on Starfield again because I don't like first person shooters, but I'm hopeless at all first person games. I struggled with bug snaps.
What happens if you can bounce
That's how bad I am
between?
at it.
But what happens if you can bounce between first and third? Because I know you can do that in a lot of Bethesda games.
If you can do it in third person, then I'm on. I would be interested in it.
Because I know Fallout, you can, Skyrim, definitely. I'm just like you in that sense. I prefer third person, but if I can switch back and forth, I love to switch to first person when I go into a dialogue scene.
Yes,
because then I can really kind of get immersed in that whole scene.
Yeah. I like jumping into first person mode when you go into a building because it gives me more aspect of where things are at rather than getting jammed in the freaking wall every time you try to turn around. But yeah, it's Redfall's not really interesting me. There's a lot of stuff that they're doing. Like, I don't know. It's really weird. There's a lot of stuff on the far horizon with Xbox that I'm interested in. But there's nothing in the sort of next 6 to 12 months that's really got me interested. But again, as I say, with Starfield, if it comes out and it's any good and you can do third person, well, yeah, I'd be interested to give it a crack. But there's just so many coming, and again, it's like, what do I play next? I've got a backlog of a couple of hundred sitting there. This is how sad it is. I've got the next 3 years basically planned out in terms of what I'm going to play because of my time limitations, so that I don't sit there at the end of the game and spend a week trying to figure out what I want to play. I'm just like, when this one's done, I'm going to that one, and then that one, and then that one. And if something pops up, I'll just slot it in. If I really want to play it, I'm going to slot it in here.
I feel you. All right, I do have a couple questions because I don't want to ignore the chat, but Josh was asking a question. He asked two of them. One of them is, are you playing the Pixel remaster?
For Final Fantasy, yes. If they release that, I will definitely pick that up. I can't guarantee I'd play all 6 of them, but I did like Final Fantasy 6, and I'd be very keen to get my son introduced to them as well. But yeah, I think Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 5 and 6 were the ones that interested me the most.
Okay. And then he also asked one other question. He's asking if you're getting the VR headset. Or if there's any plans to getting it.
There's I would like to. Having said that, I would like to try it first because
Why are you on the edge on that one? I'm kind of curious.
I've never played VR
ever,
so
none of it.
Never put a VR headset on.
Wow.
And I'm a little bit nervous about spending that much money on something that I may or may not be able to use. So I want to try it out first, because if I get motion sickness from it, man, what's the point? But that's me. I've got a son that is up my ribs like you wouldn't believe about getting it. So it may be that he gets it for Christmas, and then I'm just going to use it. So
gotcha. I tell you what, go like into the city and go to an arcade. Usually there's at least like one VR somewhere. Like maybe call around, or even nowadays, hell, some places have like bars have like VR where you can just go play VR. Yeah.
There's 3 really prominent bars in Melbourne, a couple of hours away from me, that have got gaming. Like, there's one that's an old school arcade, and it's amazing because it's got all the old arcade boxes in there. But we could talk about that for hours. But yeah, there's a few down there that are on the radar, and a couple of people locally that have picked them up. That I'm just go and try them out and see how it goes. As I was saying before, some of the guys I have a shout out to, one of them found out that he actually needs glasses because he's bought the PSVR 2. he didn't realize he needed glasses, but putting this thing on here, and all of a sudden he realizes that, oh shit, I can't actually see anything. I need glasses to play this thing. So, yeah, it's just some interesting stuff like that, which is, because in Australia, $850 once you work out the conversion. So to drop nearly $1,000 on something that may or may not be usable,
that's a
on
hefty
the
price.
second-hand market, it is. But then it's, I don't know, as I keep saying, I don't buy stuff day one because there's always a bug with it these days. So I'll probably look around June, make a decision before June, and pick one up around then, because we'll get end of year financial sales here in Australia. They'll start discounting shit, so get it a little bit cheaper and hopefully be able to pick one up then and have tested and tried it out. So yeah, it's on the cards, just not in a hurry to go out and get one. I've got too much other stuff to finish. I still probably got another 30 or 40 hours of Horizon Forbidden West to finish.
Man, I mean, Josh in the chat says 1K with the Horizon game.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious,
Yeah, I've
that's
got
a
lot of other stuff that I could drop $1,000 on.
Fair enough.
Well before that. But anyway, yeah, it's on the cards.
Yeah, my buddy Mike that runs NLG, Next Level Gaming, he's like, I really would like to have one, but I like buying a grill instead. He's like, this is gonna feed my family.
Yeah.
That ain't.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Do you like to eat, or do you want to eat in real life, or do you want to? There's an ad going around. Yeah, there's an ad going around here in Australia about some door delivered to your door food service thing, right? And they're sitting at work talking about it, and one lady's got this, terrible green oozy looking vitamin shake, and the guy sitting on the other side of the table's got a VR headset on, and he's basically eating thin air. The joke in the ad is that he starts choking halfway through it, so he reaches for it, VR water and
fail.
Funny as hell. But yeah.
All right, so out of all the studios that you've played video games from, which one would you say is your favorite studio of all time, and what game best represents them?
Tough one. Just have to think about it for a second. It's a tough one. There's a heaps of different game series that I love from different studios. God of War series, and like we were saying, the original games were just, oh man, they were something else. Yakuza series, I absolutely love that series. Final Fantasy, JRPGs, and all that. But I mean, there's one constant that's been there, and this is probably the only way I can answer this question. There's one studio that's constantly been there pretty much since near day one, and it's not Sega, but it's Naughty Dog. And it's not Naughty Dog because of all their recent success. I love Crash Bandicoot. I'm an absolute fanatic on Crash Bandicoot as a kid, made by Naughty Dog. We got the PlayStation 2, Jak and Daxter. Love those games. Again, that was Naughty Dog. You get the PS3. I didn't play The Last of Us until I got a PS4, but in PS3, some of those Uncharted games, mint. Got the PS4, Uncharted, The Last of Us, and just, it seemed to be they were progressing with their maturity in their games at about the same rate that I was growing up, So it just, not necessarily because of what they do, but they were always a constant presence in producing a game that was what I wanted at the time. And it wasn't always my favorite game, but it was a constant that I could just go, Naughty Dog's got a new game coming out in that series. Yep, I know this is going to be something that I'm interested in. I could say the same thing about Kojima and Konami. All the Metal Gear Solid games, I freaking love that series. And I can say over there, PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4. I love those games. Anything that Kojima made, touched in that series, I love them. But
so you like Zone of the Enders as well? Kinda.
I could see where he was trying. It was, I say kind of. I did like it. I could see what they're trying to do. It's something a bit different, but
it's a different type of game for sure. It's very it's very wondrous. I'll put it that way.
Wonder what
Pixel Bit G in the chat says Way of the Warrior. He's going way back. He's going way back with Naughty Dog. On friggin' 3DO and stuff like that.
Yeah. But no, man, and again, you talk about a studio and people the studio leads come and go, and the people come and go, and all the rest of it, and it's an ever evolving thing. But and if they've got a standard that they're trying to adhere to, or that they've got something that they're successfully known for doing, it's easy to just attach to that and say yes, it is. But multiple series that have really been something that I've enjoyed coming from the same studio is probably the reason why I pick Naughty Dog, or say that Naughty Dog is my favorite, because they've just hit the nail on the head every time. Kojima's done some interesting stuff, but outside of Metal Gear Solid series, where he's been involved, I haven't really sampled or held it in such high regard. And Death Stranding's a great game, but I don't hold it anywhere near in high regard as Metal Gear Solid 3 does, just because of how impactful it is at the time. So, but
I gotcha. All right, well, we got about 5 more minutes left, and I just have really a few questions left, and even you have a few questions as well.
Yeah,
so
I'll try and stop talking so much.
So no, you're totally fine. So let's go ahead and nail those down. But if you were to revive 2 IPs that were completely dead, I want to know what 2 IPs you would bring back to this day and give them that AAA budget that you feel it deserves.
Well, there's plenty that are dead that shouldn't be. Vagrant Story was a game that I really enjoyed back in the day. I don't think it ever got anywhere close to the amount of props it should have, mainly because it was overshadowed by Legend of Dragoon. But again, Vagrant Story is a Square Enix game for that, and same thing was happening back then. It was a Square Enix game. You knew exactly what, well, it was a Squaresoft at the time. You knew exactly what you were getting out of it. But that game had some really good story beats to it. Probably never got the chance that it deserved. So I wouldn't mind seeing those type of side non-mainline Square Enix JRPGs come back. Whether that's biting off too much to say one IP, but a branch of IP. There's just so many of them. I'd love to see some of the OG, some of the original Xbox games actually get a fair chance, and not just this slap shot upgrade stuff that they've tried to do. Like just say Halo 2, and yes, you can buy it on PC and you can get the upgraded version of that, but go and give it a full-blown, give it the Sony treatment, let's call it that. Go and take it and strip it down and give it to a studio that's just going to build it back up piece by piece and just upgrade the crap out of it, and not just do like a remaster up to current stuff. Like, go in and rebuild and upgrade some of the battle system, or go in and make those improvements that the critiques that came from the first go round on it, and bring it up to the current modern day standard. And don't muck around with it. Just get in there and get the work done. There's a couple of examples there that I'd like to see, given the go. And I know it's probably not exactly what you were looking for, but there's.
No, it's fine. This is yours. This is not for me.
I mean, and everyone goes, "Oh, we'd love to get Banjo-Kazooie." Like, you're probably never going to get Banjo-Kazooie unless Nintendo got it back. You're never going to get another Banjo-Kazooie.
Rare doesn't want to do that anymore. Rare's done with that.
Yeah. And fair enough. Studios evolve, studios progress.
No, it's good that they speak up and say they don't want to do something. That shows like, yo, like I won't do that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you got to stand for something. If you're just, I mean, then you're not putting any love into the work if you're just being told to do it.
Yeah.
You're just doing it let's get it out of the way.
I mean, if anybody out there remembers Croc 3D, I loved that game on the PlayStation.
I forgot all about that.
that is one of those little gems that just never never did. But man, it'd be mad fun as a platformer today. But and that was the thing back with the PlayStation 1. There's huge amounts of these turn-based RPGs with these mature elements that never really got dove into, but it wasn't aimed at adults. There wasn't a lot of mature age stuff on the PS1 and the PS2, or even the original Xbox. But when we got to the 360 and the PS3, and they just decided to go for anything that made sense and target it towards adults, man, that just opened it up, and it was bliss.
It really was. That was a wild time. But now I want to go on ahead before I ask you the last question, pretty much. I want you to go on ahead and ask me what you had. So I want to go on ahead and I want to see what you got.
Excellent. So I thank you for the opportunity for this. We've got 3 quick questions, but the first one, what console do you not own currently that you would like to?
Yeah, so this is obviously it can't be a graphics card. So this has to be a console. Something that I don't own that I'd love to own. I'm gonna probably say, man, because I got a lot of stuff. But something I don't have that I would like to have would probably be. I feel weird saying it, but probably the Neo Geo.
Yeah,
the cartridge-based one.
Yeah, it's old school. That
yeah, it is, and the reason I go there is because I already have the Sega, Tower of Power of all those consoles. I already have the Saturn 64, PS2. I even have a 3DO, Dreamcast, GameCube, 64, 360, PS5, Series X, Series S, PS3. I mean, yeah, I already have a ton of crap. So it's just like, it's just like more or less like me looking around like what don't I have right now? And I think it'd be that Neo Geo or if I can do a handheld, if I can say handheld, I'd say the Sega Nomad.
Ooh, nice.
I would love to have. I owned a Sega Nomad, sold it because that's what we did back in the days when we wanted to upgrade.
Yeah, we had no choice.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. I didn't have a budget. I was a kid. Like I had whatever scraps I could, get together. I ordered pizza with quarters. Like I did shit like that. I was a kid. But yeah, that Sega Nomad was just so dope for its time. Took full cartridge games, backlight with full color screen. It crushed batteries, but it was literally the Switch before the Switch. You could plug it into your TV and play it just like it was a regular Sega game.
Yep. Exactly.
It was amazing what it could do. It was just really kind of a finicky device. Like I said, the batteries crushed through those. The outputs on it and inputs. Like if you were around for Sega back in the day, those things, once they jostle around a little bit, they get to be finicky after a while. Especially those old school Genesises with the DC adapter in the back. Sometimes they had a hard time staying on, like you went to go turn it on. And it just depends. You got to remember, all these consoles back in the day came with cords. So somebody walk in the room and they ain't paying attention. They're holding food or something like that, and they trip over the cord. They yank the entire system off of whatever table it was, or if it was on the floor, it's on the other side of the room now, because they just kicked the crap out of it. And that was I remember that kind of stuff growing up. Not exactly with my consoles, but I definitely would spend the night over at my cousin's house, and there'd be like 6 or 7 of us, and somebody would step on a controller and down comes the console. It pisses off everybody. It's like, it's like spilling the beer, party foul kind of thing. But like, you're wondering if it's like a $200 party foul because those consoles were expensive. But yeah. So I'd say first, probably the Sega handheld. Second, Neo Geo.
Yep. They were awesome back then. They could come up with some weird and wonderful stuff, couldn't they? Awesome. So the second one is couch co-op or online multiplayer, and why is couch co-op better?
Oh my God. So I hate to break your heart, but I'm more down with multiplayer online because I want my own TV. That's really the only reason. If we can sit next to each other and have our own TVs, fantastic.
Yep.
But as for feeling, like I tell you what, like playing It Takes Two with my wife was amazing on the couch. Playing all sorts of different games, like Unraveled, for instance, amazing. Sitting there couch co-op. You can't even play Unraveled 2 online. You have to be in the same game on the same couch, pretty much, right? I really miss those experiences, but being honest with myself, like using this as an example, 007 GoldenEye just came out, right? The whole new one just came out. If you were to say, yo, would you rather have couch co-op or online? I'd say online, because I never have those friends over anymore that I used to hang out with and play those games. So although I like couch co-op, I love it, and I don't want it to go away, I just want there to always be that option to play online as well, because I swear, if they would have came out with the new 007 GoldenEye and had multiplayer on it, I would have definitely hopped on there. I'm not saying that I would have loved it and it would have been like my go-to game because of that. No, but it would have got me engaging with it. It would have got me keeping it on my hard drive, and it would have got me excited to hit up some of my folks back in the day, my cousins I used to sit in front of the TV with the 64 and play that game. I would love to be able to connect with those people because they all have families now. We all have our own household, apartments, condos, whatever. We don't have time. And plus, I live in Des Moines. My home from where I came from is 3 hours away. When I come to town, we ain't doing that. We drinking, we kicking it like adults, right? But when I'm back at home, we're all about gaming then, because it's like, finally we got away from our families, right? We're away for the night. The wife is asleep. The kid is asleep or whatever. I snuck off for a little while, and it's just me and the boys right now. And being able to hop into GoldenEye and do slappers only, or Golden Gun, or paintball with the club, or whatever. Like, that would have been fantastic to relive. And I think they could have went so many with different directions and how they could have upgraded and made the experience like more of today's feel. But it was just such a missed opportunity. But I'm getting off subject. I think couch co-op, although it's great. I like my online multiplayer just because of the accessibility with the people around the world that I talk to.
Yep. No, I completely appreciate that. So I will just add to that. There wasn't any camping when it was all couch co-op, was there?
No. In fact, there was a different problem called screen watching.
Exactly.
And the fights happened because of that. Some not so
Yes.
serious, some, right at the end of the game, what you doing looking at my screen, we about to squab kind of situation. It's like, I mean, that's why Halo got so big with the system link or whatnot that it did. So because there ain't no screen watching when somebody else is upstairs playing, right? You gotta go upstairs if you want to play. You can't come down here. We gang down here. You can't come part of this gang.
Exactly. No, been in plenty of those. Yeah. All right, and the last one is it's probably more of a personal question, but I talk a lot about gaming with my wife and my son and how I enjoy those moments. And for me, I get a lot of personal pride and joy out of witnessing and watching my son achieve stuff in gaming and just the sheer joy he gets. Like, yes, there's frustrations and there's anger at times, and coaching him through, how he's supposed to feel, and it's just a game, and every gamer hates being told it's just a game, but I get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing him triumph. Do you get that with your family? Do you enjoy those proud dad moments of watching your kids achieve and enjoy it?
Absolutely. So yeah, I get proud, but I get frustrated as hell too. I tell you that. I get frustrated as hell. The proud moments are those that I get to have, like, with my wife, her father, and one of my friends from back in Nebraska, where I'm from. We all at least once a week, we all get onto Ark Survival Evolved and play together. Cool. We've built this massive base. We've all played together before several years ago, but now that there's a new Ark coming out, Ark 2 with Vin Diesel in it and all that kind of stuff, right? There's a new one coming out. We figured, let's get in together and play together, pretty much warm ourselves up for the new game to come out, because it's a very grindy, hardcore kind of game. And to be able to play with my buddy from back in Nebraska, but to be able to play with my wife and her father at the same time is wild. Something I couldn't have dreamed of when I was young. I never thought of, man, when I get older, I'm gonna marry my wife, and I hope her dad is a gamer so we can get like I've never thought of that before. So I thought that was pretty cool. But when it comes to my daughter playing video games, it's cool but weird and frustrating all at the same time. So why it's cool is the obvious reasons, right? I get to see my daughter enjoy something I absolutely love, right? Yeah. We get to talk about it together. We get to play together. We get to, or I get to show her all these classic consoles and, other ways to play. She's playing games like Barbie from Sega. From Sega and also Super Nintendo and yeah, so she's playing all different kinds of weird games. I got her Finding Nemo on the GameCube. She loves that too. So it's really cool, especially when I watch her beat a game, even though, I crank that easy mode on for her and whatnot. But like, I let her run through Power Rangers, the fighter game, right? Yeah. And she had a freaking blast, and I recorded her. We had a great moment together. But now here comes the frustrating part. Trying to get her into something I want her to play.
Yes. I completely
That's the frustrating part. I want you to play this, and then she says Roblox, and I say I deleted Roblox. And she's like, but I want to play Roblox. And I say, no, you cannot play that game. And then she's like, but how about Minecraft? And I'm like, sure, I'll put on Minecraft. But the thing is You want me to play Minecraft while you watch. That's what you really want. Because you don't know how to play yet. You don't know how the buttons are laid out or whatnot. So it's not really you playing Minecraft. It's you asking Dad a million questions and Dad eventually getting frustrated, taking the controller and doing it for you. Yeah. And then the last part, the weird part. The weird part is me being a content creator and her knowing it. And me being a gaming content creator and her knowing it. She likes to... I have an old phone, an old Motorola phone, right? I don't use anymore. I got myself a Galaxy 20, whatever. I'm, past the old Motorola phone. Motorola's been looking good though. I might come back. But anyways, I have an old phone. It has the camera. It's still a newer phone. It's just, 2017, 2015 kind of phone, right? I gave it to her, turned off everything, deleted everything off of there. The only thing she can really engage with is games, Hulu, and Netflix. No YouTube. I took her off of that. But she knows I'm on YouTube. She knows that. So what she likes to do is record herself doing things, unboxings, video game playing, and just thoughts about stuff. So she's copying me.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So it's weird because it's just like I'm putting this energy not only into the internet and for you guys to see, but it's also, it's energizing my household, right? It's got my wife into it. It's got friends from back and home into it. It's got my wife's father into it, which in return got his wife. And she's not really into playing games, but she's more willing to try it out because I'm kind of creating this fun space for them to kind of come enjoy whenever they want.
It's a community. It's a small family community. Yeah.
It's just kind of different seeing, I do it, don't even think about it. And then I see my daughter do it and she does wild, like she does it just like I do it. Make sure she even says, knowing damn well it ain't going to YouTube. It's just staying on her phone. Right. But she's saying, hi, you guys. This is Rain. I'm playing this game today. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Have you guys subscribed yet? Looks like it. Thank you. Let's play this game and see how it goes today. And she tries to do her own. It's so cute, but still so weird.
It's scary,
to me because it is kind of because I didn't envision myself doing this at all. I didn't even think it was a possibility when I was that age. Dial-up wasn't even really a thing that much yet when I was young. When I was her age, when I was 5 years old going to school, I'm sure there was internet, but we didn't have it. You know what I mean? We didn't have internet. We didn't have a computer. We didn't have none of that. The closest thing to a computer was our Sega Genesis. And then eventually the original PlayStation. We didn't have any of that stuff. There was computers, there was internet and all that stuff, but we didn't have access to it. And plus there was no online gaming in it or anything like that back in the day. No. None of it. Any game on the computer was like single player. Pretty much. A single player, you figure it out, have a good time, do whatever. So now being around it and seeing her interact, like knowing that there's a YouTube around, knowing that she has all of these abilities to play these games that I wish I could have had. I mean, if I would have grew up around a dad that had freaking 15 plus consoles, that would have been freaking amazing. But but here she is just like chilling like it's nothing, doing videos like it's nothing. And, displaying the same type of aura that I'm displaying. And it hasn't quite materialized for me yet. It's just still in the weird state.
Yep. Yeah.
Because the weird thing about it is because I could see her doing it. eventually.
Yeah.
That's what's weird. It's because I could see it materializing, but like I don't even know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what I'm doing. But she looks like she just is natural with it, is comfortable with it, knows what she's doing, happy to talk to people, happy to meet people, happy to be watched.
And
it's weird.
And that can be that, you know, as parents, they can be quite scary too, because of all we know what it's like out in the big bad world of the internet. Hence why we try to shield them from it as much as we do. But yeah, man, I can appreciate that. Anyway, that was it. And thanks for that. That's thanks for letting me ask those questions. Yeah, man, that was good fun.
I've never had anybody take over my podcast like that. That was something. That was interesting. Somebody is like, hold on. I got questions for you. And there's been many times where I've sent people these lists of questions. We didn't have time. I didn't really ask them if they had any questions for me or whatnot. But you took a hold of it and was like, before we even got started, you're like, here, I got some questions for you. And I'm like, oh shit. But that's what's up, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I appreciate you taking time just to ask those kind of questions, because I don't get asked as many interviews as I do. I've maybe been interviewed like twice. Yeah, I want to say so. So it definitely does feel pretty good. Definitely, I appreciate it.
It's good. Conversations are always a two-way street.
100%. But as for the last question, which is pretty much two questions combined, I want to know, first of all, what frustrates you in gaming in general, and then and then the opposite, what would be like a dream come true in gaming.
Okay, so I'll go with the dream come true bit first.
Okay.
I'd love to see the preservation of gaming history done properly. Like at the moment, there is such a mismatch of who's got what, got where, and
the Wild West
acquisitions and stuff. Like it's just, you know, there's certain ones where, you know, Nintendo published Banjo-Kazooie games and Microsoft now owns it, but nothing happens with it because they can't come to an agreement on who owns what part of it. Like, and
it is the same thing with 007, right? It was literally the same thing with GoldenEye not that long ago, because Amazon holds it, Nintendo held a piece of it, and Activision owns Rare. So it's like, what the hell is happening here?
You know, and we've got, and I use the cars, the motor vehicle industry as a great example. Yes, they've had acquisitions and divestments and all this other stuff. Yet you can go and look up the history on any particular brand of car, and you'll find every single car they made, when they were made, what their perks were, what was a hit, what was a catastrophe. The history is there, and they've been making cars for 100-odd years, right? We're in what, the mid-80s gaming started, and we're now in the 2020s. We're nearly 50 years into gaming as we know it, and we still don't have a solidified single point of origin history on gaming, and it drives me. It does drive me nuts, but it's not my biggest frustration. But it is the dream that I would love to see, that they can just get some kind of association together which just focuses on not the preservation necessarily of games, but focuses on the history and celebrating that history, and you know, get a Hall of Fame going, or get something going where, yeah, currently we acknowledge certain key figureheads, but we don't acknowledge the games themselves. GoldenEye is a great example. That thing was a absolute game changer at the time. But do we celebrate it, other than those of us who played it? Do we actually celebrate it in any particular way? We might get a mention that it's its annual anniversary of this game came out. But that game was great. The Rumble Pack,
the same thing you're saying is, yeah, you're absolutely right. But you can say the same thing with one of the biggest IPs of all time, which is Mario. We don't have any like everyone knows about it, right? But it'd be super cool to have like a place in the world, or some or just some sort of yearly event to where we honor gaming, where it is and where it's going, and not have it be like, and not have it be so like a Sony thing or a Microsoft thing, or or like none of those guys have anything to do with it. Just like the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't painted all over. Pittsburgh Steelers presents you the whole. No, ain't nobody listening to that.
No, yeah, but mate, it should be. I don't like using the Academy Awards as an example because there's the Golden Globes and all the rest of it the same, but they're run by the Associated Foreign Press, so it's an independent body. It's similar to what Keeley does with his Game Awards. An independent body that goes through and does this thing, right? But have it so that it is focused on the preservation of the history or the celebration of the history of gaming, so that new people coming into it understand where the hell we came from.
I like what Sir X-Man said in the chat. He said, create a gaming museum.
Exactly.
World-renowned one. Put it up. Let's go.
Yep. Just continue, get it done, please. No, you're right. But we need it. I talked to my son. About some of my favorite games. Final Fantasy VII, one of my all-time favorites. It's big in my history of gaming. He's got no interest in it at all. Why? Because it's not Minecraft or Roblox. I was like, but do you understand how impactful this game was? And he's like, I don't care, Dad. That was way back then. But it had a place in history. Same with Mario. Same with all these other ones. And yes, they've bounced around here to there and all that licensing. It shouldn't matter. Just get to a point where we can say Super Mario came out and it was a game changer for the industry because it did this. And this is why the PlayStation was so damn important. And this is why the Xbox was so damn important. And this is why the Neo Geo was, and the Game Boy did this, and Nintendo. And you can segment them out if you want to, but just have something somewhere where we can just have a celebration of what our favorite hobby, and it's an entertainment thing, but it is a hobby of ours, where we can just go and find out. You get car enthusiasts, plane enthusiasts. There's freaking stamp collectors even get this sort of stuff, right? Why can't we have one? That's my dream. If I could have one dream in the gaming community, just have one place to go or somewhere which celebrates our history. And I say that because that's not my biggest frustration. My biggest frustration is this desire, drive, demand, whatever you want to call it, of perfection in every game. It drives me up the fucking wall that everyone expects every game ever made to be absolutely perfect for them. Why? There's what you love is not what I love. Why should every game be exactly every game's not made for you?
This kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with this whole creativity thing. It's like you're letting outside noise influence so much of what's being created today that everything seems like it's made for everyone instead of like a crowd. Like music. Nobody says anything when somebody says this is rap music. This is country music. This is opera music. No one's saying, yo, make opera music okay for the rap folks. Because they need to, because the rap folks need to feel opera.
Exactly.
Or else opera's just gonna die. Like, come on.
And that's exactly it's like this. It drives like they say, it's got to be this. It must be 4K, native 4K, 120 FPS. Why? I understand that people don't necessarily like 30 FPS, but there are games that are made which are still screen point and click, story games where there's no movement on the freaking screen. Why does it need to be 120 FPS? And there's strategic games where they're like, it can't be turn-based, it's got to be action. Like, why? Why do people who love turn-based strategy games have to suffer because you as an individual don't particularly like that trait of the game? Like it, and the fact that certain influencers, and I'll use that term loosely, and even journalists, which is even more used loosely, think that they have a right to demand certain things of a game when they've clearly been indicated that that's not what they're going to do, and expect that they're going to be heard as the ultimate authority on it. That frustrates the hell out of me. There are plenty of games that I have played that I have enjoyed that would barely rate a 7.
Oh,
and there's
absolutely.
plenty of games that
some of my favorite games are like a 2.
Yeah, there's games that I've played which are an absolute 10 out of 10, and I can't stand them. They're boring as hell, and I just don't like them. But that's for me to make that decision. It's not up for anybody else to make the decision. I said this on a conversation a while ago. We're talking about PSVR 2. Might have been on Brap's show, actually. The biggest problem that people have is understanding that the entertainment and the interaction and immersion is an individual experience. What I experience, what I see, what I hear, what I feel, what I interpret, what I understand is, for me, is completely different to you, completely different to everybody else. So I need to make the decisions for my limited time in gaming based off what I perceive to be worth my time. But there's other people who've got 40, 50, 60 hours a week that they spend playing games. They're going to enjoy something in a totally different manner. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't do it. Enjoy what you want to enjoy. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't enjoy. But there are those that persist in trying to shit on everything, and they never talk positively about a game. They just talk negatively all the time, and they downplay some of the best mechanics that have ever come out recently. And they're like, "Oh, this game it's rubbish. Yes, the mechanic's great, but it has a 2 frame rate stutter and it's 58, not 60 frames per second, so it's hot garbage." Like, for those of us who were around at the start, when we had NTSC versus PAL across multiple different regions of the world, some of us were stuck at 50 FPS, others were playing 60 FPS of the same game. We had to use our damn imaginations to plug the holes, and we enjoyed it. We had crap graphics, 3D, 3D graphics, the first Crash games that came out on the PlayStation. Way back when. There was no flat screen TV. It had a picture tube in it. You had to muck around with the frequencies to get it to work right. You plug your PlayStation in if you were lucky enough, and off you go. And the picture you got was the picture you got. That was it. You had to fill the rest in yourself. GoldenEye, a great example then. It's a very basic game in today's standards, but back then that was cutting edge stuff on 3D graphics on an N64. But you had to fill in a lot of the gaps yourself because they couldn't plaster all this stuff on the screen. Why are we in this mode now of we must have perfection every time a game gets spat out? That if it doesn't meet this ridiculously impossible standard, that we're just going to say it's no good. Now, that's not to say that games shouldn't be released that work. When a game gets released, my expectation is that it's in the best condition to enjoy it. The ones that they spit out and then they have a day one patch and then 3 weeks later they've got this massive upgrade to fix some issue, they should have just delayed it and spit it out proper. Or work harder to get it out on time, you know. It's only a couple of weeks, who cares either way? I'm not referring to those. Those things should be sort of when they come out. It's these, I don't even know how better to put it, but if there's an expectation, it must be native 4K with ray tracing, 120 frames per second for something that's an animated art style that's got hardly anything shifting on the screen. Like, what? Why? What are we doing here? You know, just throw it out there. People think it's good, they'll spend the money. If they don't think it's good, they won't spend the money.
Man, yep. I mean, I like what you're saying with that, because I feel like some of these games don't need to take 6 freaking years. Like,
They
like,
don't.
like I understand it if it's going to be like a generational type title. And I'm more or less talking to first party when I say this, because third party, it's kind of like whatever you want to do, just do it. Sure. Because you're not tied down to anything, but like, it would be nice to see more of that hi-fi rush kind of thing, more of that just kind of goofy type of Parappa the Rapper type stuff.
Yeah.
That
exactly.
used to be out on PlayStation back in the day. Not everything needs to be, you know, some of the biggest games, in my opinion, are the ones that were just goofy and didn't take yourself too serious. Didn't try to appease everybody, just tried to help you understand the game. Focused on the game, not the player.
Exactly. What why does Crash Bandicoot need to have all his fur waving with the wind and all that sort of? Why? It was fine back in the day when it was just one color, one block.
Yeah, so I mean, just my opinion, but yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, and so with that being said, that's pretty much the end of the show, bruh.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It was it was a fantastic time. We almost hit about 3 hours. We're over 2.5 hours right now, which means good conversation and a relaxing time for me. It didn't feel rushed. It definitely didn't feel painful. It was a good time. Thank you so much for coming on. What there's 2 more things I want you to do. One of them is just to let everybody know where to find you. Either, like I said, it's on gaming or on social media or whatever. Go on ahead and do that.
So social media, best place to find me is on Twitter at Forky87. It'll be in the descriptions below. And if you want to hit me up on PlayStation, my PSN is uncle_Davey. Yeah, I'm again, I'm limited in how much time I spend on that, but happy to just engage and have a chat.
Well, it's been a pleasure, bro. But the one last thing I need you to do before I do my sign out is I want you to describe gaming in just 3 words.
Gaming in 3 words. I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, and I'm still sort of stumped on it. Gaming in 3 words, 3 individual words is challenging, enjoying, and community. They're the 3 that I can come down to.
Okay,
or I can go the other way and say unfreaking believable.
I like both of those. One ran together, and another one more on a separate note. But either way, fantastic having you on. I definitely can't wait to get you back on to bull sitting with me, Logan Cozy, in the near future. Yep. That's always a good time. You always have a different perspective, and I don't know, maybe one of these times in the future we'll go at it again like we did before in bull sitting. We definitely had some interesting points to counter each other on, which made the conversation that much more fun. But thank you everybody that came through to check us out this evening on Behind Them Sticks here on the TSWS Gaming YouTube channel. I appreciate y'all. Make sure if you haven't yet, hit that like button. If you also haven't yet, hit that subscribe button if you want to come back and meet more awesome individuals within the gaming space. This is your boy Ham Solo 05 Gaming signing out with you. And you know I always got to let you guys know at the end of every episode that I do to keep it gaming or keep it moving. Peace out, y'all.
Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks podcast, brought to you by TSWS Gaming.
Come and talk to me, Lennard Ray. Come on. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby. Listen, I'm just saying we can rule the world, just me and you if you quit playing. Won't you take a chance with me and have that conversation?